the tune in the prospector from like, man, it sounds great to like, oh my God, this thing is fucking incredible. I was like, all right, good job, guys. And they were like, this is fun. I'm like, and like Colt today he was messaging with Scott, asking him, he's like, he's like, I was asking him how many of these inputs out of the head unit I should use. I'm all of them. he's like, I just want to see what Scott says. I'm all, okay, whatever. See
like
what Scott says.
In my Duramax, I use just the front. Yeah, just run it, no crossovers out the head unit, just front, and just use the VXI to distribute signal. But in the Tahoe, I'm going to use just front for the front, but then I'm also going to use sub just to have the separate sub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's doing the sub straight to the subwoofer amp, and then because we have 8 channels for high-speed, front and rear, mids and tweets. So we have 2 4 channels and the 12K. So, but Scott said something about it would make it have more signal or something. I'm like, whatever. I would have just plugged all the fucking things in, and if I didn't need all of them, I would turn that shit off.
Yeah, no, which that totally works. I mean, the only reason I only did the one RCA was because it just made sense, and then I knew I wanted to do one bougie ass RCA, so I have one Stinger 9000 front to back in the truck. I got it used, and I still paid $90. Imagine $90 for a used RCA.
Hey, at least they lock on though, right?
They're tight. They don't lock on, but they're tight. They can be.
I have a customer that was telling me, and I'm building, like, it's the way I'm building this crazy box for him, is I had to make like these channels that are on the top of the box that have plenty of room to be able to easily run the RCA cables under the amp rack, and they have to stay away from fucking everything naturally. But he's like, I got to be able to easily change them out because we're gonna be like tuning this thing with RCA cables. And I'm like, holy fuck. Okay. Like, that's some wild shit. Jeff, do you ever tune your audio system by switching RCA cables?
So it's a thing. It's over my head. I've got someone on my SQ team roster that shall remain nameless at this point, but he has a fantastic set of ears, and he's done, I think, $5,000 to $10,000 worth of RCA testing, where he's bought all these different cables, tips, different solders, and said, and again, it's way over my head, but the long and short of it, I was just like, dude, tell me which ones to buy for my Mazda. And he was like, cool, this, and this, and then this one for the bass. And I'm like, cool, I'll buy that.
Okay, what'd he say?
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah,
I can send those to you. I don't have them memorized, but I'll send them to you if you want.
That'd be great.
It's not expensive either.
I bet they're not. I fucking bet they're not.
All of the RCAs in my car, apparently, like if you built them, people would charge $300, $400, or $500 a set, whatever they charge. I think I've got $200 total in RCAs in my car, total.
And he has a bunch of hand built RCAs.
Yeah.
Are you talking about components and then to build your own, or do you have any RCAs in your car that are just off the shelf?
There's nothing off the shelf now. It's just buy tips. He was like, does the solder matter? Can I use this? He's like, yes, you have to use this solder. I'm like, okay, cool.
Okay.
Buying that solder.
Wow.
So
okay.
All right. Well, shit.
But
shoot us that info. We want to know. We were making a lot of cables. We were using the DD ones, and we've used Sky High ends. You know what I mean? And they're all relatively similar. But it's kind of a pain in the ass, and you're like, we can make them perfect right to size, and our shop rate is fucking $225 an hour, or we can just buy these ones that are like $40 a set, and our customers are like, we should probably just do that, huh? I'm like, if I believed it was better for any reason, I would tell you. And they're like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, but I haven't been proven anything. But I'm like, hey man, my man Jeff told me this is the fucking way. This is what we're gonna do in your build. Mike, I got a lot of customers who are like, yes, do that shit for sure. So
Yeah, whatever
Yeah,
he says.
there-
Run that.
if you make me believe that there is something better to it, and I can see it a little bit in my own, like, cause I test fucking everything. Yes, fucking true.
Yeah.
I'll test the shit out. I'll go, all right, I made a full set of cables for fucking Slam Halen, and we're gonna like take these ones out and we're gonna run these ones and we're gonna fucking listen. And if we go, I hear something, then there we are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Eric knows I test the fuck out of everything in sight because he's one of my
Oh, Drew found
technicians
him.
that his primary function is to test things.
These are some of Jeff's.
So those are ones that I made specifically for the subs because, again, my friend told me explicitly that this cable tip combination is best for sub bass. So
What is a global EQ? Am I retarded?
it's a loop back that Drew is absolutely infatuated with.
I love loop backs.
Okay.
We will explain loop backs
I think it's
further
great
later.
because then you have the global and it makes it real easy. I mean, and you don't need that on some DSPs. Some DSPs you can just say fucking EQ everybody, right? I think the Helix does that, right?
Yeah,
right?
Helix has 5 bands universal, yeah.
But only 5 bands?
It's 5 bands universal across the whole input. So
yeah.
But that's what the loop backs are designed to do, and we can talk about it later. But the long and short of it is you do this loop back in the JL software, and then that allows you to have 10 bands parametric to tune your system to taste, because maybe it sounds perfect, maybe it's all perfectly in phase, all these things, and then you go get 10 people's feedback at finals, and yes, those are the batties. I found out the pronunciation is batties, by the way. So anyways, you do the loop back, and that gives you 10 bands parametric. So if you get a judge and he says, hey, this sounds fantastic, but I need you to adjust the way the male vocal sounds, can you add just a little bit more warmth in there? Well, typically that's around 400 hertz. Well, where's your crossover point? Right around 400 hertz. So now you've got 2 drivers interacting, or you can just move them at the same time and adjust how they interact at the same time and not mess with phase. So that's what the global EQs are for. It's not a on an optical regulator, so RCAs completely. I'll talk about that in a second. It's not a band-aid, and that's where I harp on Drew a little bit, because he'll just be like, universal EQ the whole thing, and I'm like, no, hang on, it's for very minor adjustments. That's it.
Drew's probably mad at you right now. He's like,
so he'll be like, hey, I need my target curve to be within 0.2 dB across the board, and I'm like, dude, you can't hear it. Just get it really, really, really close, and then universal EQ by ear based on your vehicle. And feedback from your vehicle, more importantly, So, because that's the most important thing I think about all of this is you don't just
you gotta
go, the target curve rules it, or this one person said I need to change this. No. The key to all this is you need to go and get as much feedback as you can. Give demos everywhere. Every single person that can get a demo, you need to give them a demo.
Yeah.
So
100%. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of what you're building your car for, is for enjoyment of other people as well as yourself, obviously, and if you want to win trophies. But you want people to listen to it and love it, and then getting their feedback and having you tune it, little by little by each person almost. It kind of makes this amazing system like you have.
Yeah, and it's whittling, right? So you can get, and Bob, you learned this over at Mark Elger's. I'm sure you can get 90% there with a solid tune off of the max array, right? You can get really, really close. I mean, you saw it with the test car that you built, hopefully, and it doesn't take long. But getting that last couple percent, it's just like making optimizations in SPL. You probably still have 4 or 5 dB left after you've built this crazy awesome build. You just got to do that testing and get through it. And the same thing with
you just got to keep on testing.
Yeah.
You just keep on going. And rather than, hey, I'm going to wax the whole inside of my port and gain a 10th, you just translate that to, hey, this 3 judges told me, hey, the female vocal just sounds a little, raspy. Why don't you look at 2000 or 6000 hertz or something? And they'll kind of point you in the right direction. Same kind of thing.
So, how much of your testing or adjustments are, because like for SPL guys, it has so much more to do with vehicle, and obviously you're making adjustments to the cabin versus in SQ. Is it a lot of cabin adjustments still, or is it mostly like EQ and DSP adjustments?
Yeah, a fantastic question. So I think that's one thing that gives SPL guys an advantage, because I came from SPL, I learned that, and I still love it. But the long and short of it is, SPL guys, you can't just turn the gain up more. You can't just tinker with your low pass filter a little bit. You have to make these physical improvements in the vehicle to see end results. And SQ, you can kind of put some makeup on it by adjusting the tune, but you can't get it better. You can't get it to that next level unless you make those physical adjustments. So the mindset of SPL guys, I think, is actually on an advantage from someone that starts in SQ and tries to go down this tuning rabbit hole. You start with a perfect build first, you tune as necessary.
Or you figure out little cabin thing, like when we were at Mark's, right? Colt and I were analyzing why the 3-inch that we installed in the dash on the Mega Cab, this is the week before we went to Mark's, and we were fighting this. They sounded like shit. I'm like, man, we have put these fucking 3-inch speakers in 24 vehicles, and they sound fucking great every time. Why do they sound like shit in this truck right now? And I could not figure out exactly why, but I did figure out that when I just kept raising the crossover point, it sounded fucking better. And I'm like, it's not like I'm running way too much power. I don't understand what the fuck the issue is, but I just kept bringing that crossover point up, and I got to like 700, and it got like, it was awesome. We stopped there. I'm surprised I didn't keep going. I didn't reach the point of diminishing return. But when we were at Mark's, he was talking about how to deal with reflections. And sometimes when you have an install of that nature, you're kind of rocking the reflection if you do it right. And you tuck that thing a little deeper in the dash, and you put a bunch of foam around that tweeter, and you go, no, I don't want any of the direct signal off of the cone. I want to hear only the reflection. And I was like, oh. And then he was talking about the what and why. And then he was talking about Scott's install. And he was like, you need to raise your crossover point up to like 800 or 1,000 because you have crazy ass reflections on your windshield. And all of that was coming together. And I'm like nudging Colt. And like, you remember when I was making you change all that shit? That's why. Like I could find the result, but I wasn't sure why. I was like, man, I'm like, are they breaking up? Is that the speaker?
Is it
like,
what was it? Is it the
it
was the cancellation?
So
but like, what is it about the reflections? Is it like canceling that certain frequency or something?
Well, it makes it just a fucking mess.
Okay,
is really the best way to describe it, right? You want to explain in better detail, Jeff, so that we all learn?
Yeah, there's 2 things happening here. So speakers play like a shotgun, not a sniper, right? That's beaming. So there's 2 things happening. One is it's not beaming, so sound is going everywhere. So you're getting multiple sources of that sound. The second thing is called boundary reinforcement. So you have the dash, you have the windshield, and then you have an A-pillar. So you have 3 sides adding, 6 dB each. So now you've got 18 dB of gain on the low frequencies. And that's why having that crossover flattened it out, right? And so you killed 2 birds with 1 stone by getting farther into beaming and limiting, the overall sound, and made it flatter using your crossover. So it's really 2 or 3 issues in one. It's not just frequency response.
But while we were there, I was like, man, had we still had the Mega Cab, if we still had the Prospector, I would have pulled that speaker out. I would have sunk it deeper in the dash, and I would have put a bunch of foam around that thing, and then I would have been able to bring that crossover back down a little bit. Not that it sounded bad, but I could have made it sound better. I mean, it sounded fucking outstanding. It's one of the best sounding vehicles that we've ever built. And that was just one little 3-minute piece of the class that we were there for. We were probably in Mark's building for 30 plus hours over Friday afternoon and Saturday and Sunday all day long. So just that little quick moment there was information, and I was like really excited and proud of me and Colt and Tyson for, we didn't figure out exactly what, we didn't know the terminology and the reasoning, but I definitely established that if I keep crossing it over higher, it sounds fucking better. And I don't understand why. And I was like, I'm going to want to know why. I'm going to want to talk to the guys about what's going on there to make it, more clear, so that we are learning from our experience. It's one thing to be like, well, I got the results I wanted. Why?
But didn't know
And
why.
so, and yeah, it was super cool.
So before we get too much further into it, for those who don't know, our guest this week is Jeffry Hald. He's been on a couple times, so a lot of y'all already know who he is.
As a pop-in, he's never been on as his own guest. So.
No, yeah, he was on. Actually, he was on our third episode when I was at MTI. We had Chris Pate as our lead guest, and Jeffrey popped in for that, and he's popped in a couple times here and there. But I figured he needed his own episode, because as he's mentioned, he was into SPL before SQ. He's been doing this a while.
Speaking of tell us about your SPL background a little bit. That must have been a minute ago, because when I first met you, this was Dallas.
Knowledge Fest.
What's the name of that show? Knowledge Fest.
Knowledge Fest. Yep.
19 maybe ish, probably 18 or 19. It was one or the other. But yeah. I mean, and that was. I mean, that's already almost 5 years ago.
Well, let's go back.
Yeah, let's
2012.
Oh, we're gonna see some pictures here. Oh God.
2012. I went digging today.
Oh, I'm scared. Oh my God.
Clean
really
install, bro.
dude.
Hell yeah.
Dude,
just put them in the back seat.
Dude, thank God
My
I have
first
64
ever
gigabytes of RAM. Well,
what kind of components are they?
Polk.
God,
Polks.
what were those?
Polk audio.
Yeah, those were the Polks. Yeah, I picked those because they had the highest sensitivity, and I had the Polks, and then I had a Rockford amp I bought off of the Steve Mead forum that I was on at one point.
Everyone knows that forum.
Yep. And that was back when I had my old Honda Accord, and that was my I had a tax return type of system that I put in my dad's truck that he let me drive. And then this was my first car, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna do it right. No corners cut.
Going through all your photos, everything I saw, you've been doing stuff as good as you can, or the right way.
At least with the experience you have. Yeah. Okay. So this is first.
Yeah. This was my first ever real package.
A lot of people will recognize Basshead ENT. That's Robin Butler.
Yep.
I'm from Florida. He had a Dodge Neon. That's how I knew him. Huh?
That box is still alive.
Come on.
That box is in Austin, Texas right now.
So these are 2012 photos. That's how far back these are.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a real tattoo. That would be way cooler if it was, bro.
So they were doing henna tattoos in my college dorm, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Oh no!
The caption on this photo was, "It's a lifestyle, not a hobby."
So, funny story about this picture. I was actually broken down on the side of the road.
I mean, that's the only reason I'd really take a photo right there.
I was broken down. I was like, cool, I'm going to take a picture.
All right, go back. No stacking on them. Oh, there we go. So, okay, that's how you had it set up. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You got the AGM battery, because everyone had AGM 2012. That's just how it was, bro.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, this is terrible.
When you were 2012 lithium, you were like kept the fire extinguisher in your lap.
That's
driving along.
That's early Sky High too. Early Sky High.
Yeah.
And the Audio Technics Deadener too.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I remember Audio Technics.
Still.
Bro, check out the Rockford Power series. Or was that Punch? That's Power.
No, it's Power. It was Power.
That's Power. Yeah, that's Power. Dude, I loved the Power series amps. I ran them forever. Ever.
It was a good amp.
Good amps. Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Fucking
Fucking
hardcore,
Jerry.
We need to
bro.
get
He's
off
such
these
a dick.
pictures. Next one. Go.
That's like one of those JP
Oh God.
pictures.
Oh God.
It pounds.
It pounds.
hurts.
Hell yeah.
Oh
It hurts.
shit.
I love it.
See, so this is like 12, 2012, 2013. I mean, he's already doing stuff that looks
Yeah, it's
good.
clean. Yeah.
And
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
I was doing the best I could with my $10 tools. You know, if you notice, those are Home Depot, or whatever, like General Electric $20
Like Harbor
tools.
Freight.
Hey,
Yeah.
bro,
I mean, shit, man. We
buy a
still
ton of
rock
those.
Harbor Freight at Gately Audio, man.
the
We ain't
time.
got that baller money. We got that Focal headphone money.
All snap on.
I'm not sure. The mic is kind of far away from me, so that might be part of it. I could bring it closer to me. That'll help.
Drew's got the most expensive setup out of all of us, and he has the most issues.
The most
Yeah,
audio
hell, that,
issues.
like he's all fucking maxed headroom, all
He's
tweaking
like,
out.
ah.
His mic sounds like he's
Fucking
mic's
underwater.
in and out.
It was
sometimes.
all right. It was jumping because I was doing another 4K box rendering for somebody with all.
Yeah, your mic
Your
is
mic's
like,
going in and out right now.
yeah, you're underwater or something, bro.
It just happens.
Bring your face
Makes sense.
really close to the mic and the camera, so like we're zoomed in on your eyeball.
It's
So
super
creepy.
super cringy to see all these old pictures. Oh man.
I'll be right back. You fucking go.
Now he's mad at me.
No, I mean, like, it's like all these pictures. I was proud of what I was doing. I was trying really hard, but just going back to them, I'm just like, oh God, that is terrible. I need to go back and delete them all now.
Nah. I'm telling you, man. This is still fucking better than 99% of people that are like, hey, check this out. Check out my wiring, bro. You're like, okay.
Okay.
Fuck.
There,
No, that's great. I
better?
mean, I have a huge pet peeve of the same color wire. I mean, at least you have the different color heat shrinks, but the power ground same color. I've always been like, fuck, man.
0.5 daily
Yeah.
because you're supposed to run low ohm loads.
This is one that I stole from my old teammate Ken.
All right.
Oh, this is
We'll
when
come back to that in a minute.
Oh God. Oh man.
Now we'll come back to all that in a minute. So you were running Skar for a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm sure it sounded great because all the stuff you do sounds really good.
I mean, it was good. You know.
What was next?
I mean, it was the best
No,
that I
I'll bring
could
it
do.
back up.
So
Bring it back up.
What is that? Fuck.
So that no,
Free.
for FREE. That was my
Oh, frequency.
nickname. So I was just like, look, I'm gonna put it on my desk cap. You know, I'm gonna build a custom sub and I'm gonna put it on my desk cap.
Okay.
So, but
What'd you
the
build?
long and
What is
short
it?
of it, so that was actually a American-based XFL pair
Okay.
that I then put DD 3512 soft parts in, and then oh yeah, the longboard in the back, and then I went to Sundown X's. But the long and short of it is basically I built this car and I was like, look, I'm going to do it the best I can. And then each time I did something, I was like, oh, there's a better thing that I can do. So I just started upgrading things as I could. I, left the first thing that I got rid of was the VVXs from Skar. I went to ZVXs, and then I upgraded power. I started upgrading electrical because I almost caught the car on fire. Then the ZVX, the motor shifted on me one day, and I was just like, cool, I'm going to get new subs. So then I got American-based XFLs.
Did you
blue
have
one
fusing front to back?
Yes, there was fusing front to back, and there was a fuse for the long run in two positions, but there wasn't fusing from that battery to the back amp. No,
I wouldn't
so
fuse
there
that
was-
either.
You went
would
you went
fuse
from
right
the
there.
Sundowns to the American base subs?
No.
other way. I went
Other way,
American
okay.
base first, XFLs,
Okay.
just straight stock XFLs. Then I blew one, giving Twisted Child 420 a demo.
Richard was a
and
good dude.
I was sitting there floating a piece of paper in my window, doing that whole thing, and then just rant. And I'm like, oh crap! He's
I
like,
have also almost blew up subwoofers giving Richard a demo. How
And then-
odd.
He still has his footage somewhere. He never uploaded. He's like, oh, don't worry, I'll take that out in editing, and then he just never uploaded it. And then so I blew those. I reconed them. The car at the time was doing like a 147 at 32 hertz. It peaked at 32. It was just peaked low due to cabin things like that. Then went to the American Bass or the Sundown X's. Got a little bit louder. That was like a 48.5. Started. Okay, cool. My bass is good enough. Well, hang on. I haven't gotten there yet. But I was like, cool. My bass is good enough. I'm gonna start upgrading the better sound because my Polk audios were good, but I'm trying to make something sound a little bit better, right?
Right.
So I started getting involved with B2 at the time, and I got B2 amps first, and then I was just like, hey, Jay, really awesome guy. What?
Are those 8s? What are those?
No, those are 6.5s. Those are the old reference series.
Okay.
But I'd started getting involved with Jay, and then Jay was always treating me really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, 2013, my deadener, it didn't look that good. It was alright. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I've been with Second Skin that long too. I've always supported Second Skin. They're a great company, great products. But
my first experience with Second Skin was I won a pack of deadener off of a forum, and I used it in my Dodge Ram. I love that. It's like, man, it's the best stuff ever.
That's good shit.
It's good shit. Then he did a 50 at the trunk.
And the loudest the car ever was a 50 flat in the kick.
That was December 27th, 2015.
Yeah. So,
so I would rate as I was saving photos, I'd saved either like something important, like the date or like the name of what it was or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but so this one, there's a quick funny story on it. At this time, I had a DD, whatever the 5,000 watt DD amp is. I forget what it is. A M4B or something like that. I had one of those. I had two B2 Audio custom built 12s that were the old CC motors. Really, really tight coil gap, really efficient, but peaky as all hell. They would only play like 20 hertz bandwidth. And I was like, cool, I'm going to custom build these, custom coils, everything. I want to get a 50. So I built these subs, did like a 48.7, I think. And then my buddy David Miksch, very, very good buddy of mine, he was just like, dude, we're getting you a 50 today. So we took apart my whole car. We sealed up all the edges on everything. We did all kinds of cabin gain testing and like moving this, moving that. We burped the car. It's a 49.8. And we're like, crap. So we turn it up to full clip, 49.9. And we're like, ugh! We rip off the dash pad, and I give it everything the 80 PRS has. It was 57 is where it was clean. 60 was the full clip. Went to 62, ripped off the dash pad, one more burp, 50, take a picture. So that was my only 50 ever.
Hey, it's good enough. Inside the trunk, 32 hertz. I like it.
It's pretty good at 32 hertz out of the trunk. It's not bad.
I did a 49.7 with the 10 6.5s in my F-150, and I'd be like, oh, it's right there, and I'm like, cool, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm like moving fucking visors and shit around, and then I burped again, and I'm all 48 too. And then I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And I'm like, does the visor do that much? And then I look and I'm like, oh, I broke a basket of a sub. And I'm like, grab another sub. And we flip the box up and we put another sub in. And I'm like, are we flexing or something? No, we're just breaking baskets because apparently that was the weak link of my Relentless 6.5. And Colt and I were put another sub in. And I'm like, oh, we play it for like 10 minutes. Like, that's broken in. Let's burp it. 49.7. All right, visors. 49.7. Motherfucker, I can't do shit. And we're like playing with it, moving the seats around. It's not changing anything. I broke another sub. Son of a bitch. Put another sub in. I was like, I did a 48.97 like 9 times, 10 times, and I broke 3 subwoofers, so we.
So you're like,
At least you found it.
It was. I mean, what's
You
that?
found your weak. You said you found your weak link in the subs.
I found it was the baskets of my subs was what would break. That's the only things that I've broken on a Relentless 6.5. I mean, we had an Osprey 8K wired at 0.4 ohms or something like that. And we were getting all the power out of that thing with lithium and everything. So, but yeah, that's my, but I didn't get my 50. I was like, motherfucker. And so then I built the new version of what that box is. That's the 9 6.5s that I have in there currently.
I think it sounds good too.
Anyway, it's fun. Yeah.
So I was letting Max out because he wouldn't quit whining, and I was adjusting my heating pad because my low back hates me a lot.
Do you hang from a bar? Do you hang from a pull-up bar, Drew? Have we talked about this before? Shoulders, back, neck.
Sometimes I do, but I don't have access to one that's tall enough at the house.
Yeah, even mine is in a doorway, and it's not tall enough for me, so I can imagine you would really struggle.
Yeah, no, but I do plan on hanging one from like the carport, so I could have to jump up and grab it.
Yeah, do that shit every day. Static hang. Don't wiggle. Don't move. Don't look around with your head. Just sit there 2 minutes.
And luckily, I am strong enough to hold myself up, so I do have that going for me.
Right. Yeah.
But
when I'm being like when I'm doing a really good job, I'll do like 30 or 50 seconds, and then I'll do one single strict pull up, and then I'll drop down. I'll sit there. I'll wait a little bit, and then I'll get back on. And I do 2 minutes total. I can't do 2 minutes straight of just static hanging. I'm not that far yet, but I do it almost every day. Every once in a while, like I'll realize that I haven't been doing it for a week, and I'll be all, what the fuck? I got to get back on that shit, because I'll notice it because my shoulders will start hurting and being uncomfortable. But if I hang from the bar every day, I'm good. Same with my back.
Yeah, I need to get onto it. But, so let's move on a little bit. Boy, he got the DeGuardo voice coil temp sensor. One of like 9 people on the planet with one.
I have one. I never used it.
I like that thing.
Dude, we have 3. I got one in Tahoe, one in the Nitro. We have a broken one that I need to try to fix, but dude, I love them. Love them.
I need to order some of those from that new guy that makes them. Like, he comes
Josh
on.
Guy.
He watches the show. What's his name? Son of
Josh. Something.
He usually watches the show.
Yeah, he does electronics repair too. He someone will comment his name, but I tried to tell Mike, like, Bullet Man, sell me your design, sell me the name, I'll do everything, and I'll just pay you, royalties on it. Like, it could go to market. But look at it was his Tessa tape days. His Tessa tape days.
All these install pics, man.
That's a lot of Tessa tape.
That's a lot of Tessa tape. Hey, look, we've all had Tessa tape days. We've all been there.
No. I still use it now.
My technicians are. I mean, I use a little bit, but man, when my guys are like spiraling some, I'd be like, no. I had when we worked on Byron's Tundra. We like undid his install, and he had an install done by a high-end shop. They did a lot of really nice work, but man, they must have had 6 fucking rolls of Tessa tape in that thing. I am not exaggerating. Ask Byron. Byron he's like, I'll undo it all. It was like 2 hours. I'm not exaggerating. 2 hours solid of peeling Tessa tape off all the wires, and he was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what if you had to service something in this install? What if you wanted to change something? What if you couldn't figure out where the problem was?
Yeah.
I guess tight lower back. Well, he ain't tell me to do pull-ups. He told me to hang. Pull-ups are hard, bro. I'm like 300 pounds. I mean, I'm strong, but that's a lot of weight.
When we do the Soulgasm, we'll use like 47 rolls of Tessa tape and just wrap all the like power wires just spiraled with it for no reason. Fuck it.
Yeah, not even taped to anything. Just like putting a little extra layer on the jacket.
Look at that Perfy boy.
Yeah.
So after this photo, we're gonna start getting into some recognizable people and builds that Jeffrey was either seen or one of these he worked on, because that's what the photo is, him working on it.
Yeah, well, that was the thing that I would do
Well,
What,
this
this was
this is the Mazda, right? No.
Yeah, this is the
Yes.
very first test fit. The Mazda had nothing in it. It was like a month and a half old. I think I had deadened the roof, and then David Mix was building me the sub box. And this was the very first test fit. I was like, cool, we're gonna make Accord, but better, and it's gonna be the Mazda. And this is how that went.
Okay.
Looks good.
Yeah, it does.
All right. And then, do y'all know who this is?
I do.
I know who this is.
Yep.
It's Dan's, right?
Yep.
No.
Nope.
It's Munson's.
That is Chris Munson.
Oh, that's Munson's.
That's the Orange
right.
Trailblazer.
Yeah.
So this
Oh,
is
yes, of
my
course.
first introduction to the Munsons when they joined Louisiana Sound Off, which was a Facebook group for like the South Louisiana, like Louisiana, Mississippi, like our little group. Well, Chris got in there and started making these wild claims of these numbers, right? I mean, he was saying, "Oh, this is doing a 164 or something." And we're like, "No, it's not, bro. Stop, you're lying." So
it does
him
it.
out like a dummy.
It does it.
It did every bit of it. I got my feelings hurt, but this must have been 2016-ish, 2017-ish, maybe. Maybe earlier than that. No, it's around then because I had the nitro. So
And those are W6 V3s or V2s?
V3s.
V3.
it was it was 1210s.
12s. No, it was 10s. You're right.
10s.
It was
10s.
12 10s.
Yeah, 1210s on JL, like 1200 watt amps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like 4 of
there
them or
was,
something, or 3 of them.
Was it 4? I think it was
I
4.
think
Yeah, it was 4 because he was wired at like 1.33.
4 makes sense because I guarantee there was some phase alignment going on in there between the rows.
It was really loud for sure.
Boy got his
That was when
B2 subs in there now.
Yeah.
Did you flip the box around so it was passenger port versus the first?
It's
picture we saw?
just camera flipping that makes it look like
Okay.
that. So it was always been passenger port.
Okay, so the first picture was flipped.
Yeah.
This one's
Yeah, otherwise the B2 would be backwards. So yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all, what? I don't understand.
Geeker Hans. That looks like
Because it is.
Oh, okay. I didn't know you worked on that thing.
I didn't either
Yeah.
until I saw this picture. I was like, wait a second.
It showed up to the wherever that finals was. It shows up to that, and I always try to help people when I can, and it shows up to that, and it's like it doesn't play, and I'm like, cool. If I help you work on it, will I get the first demo? He's like, yeah, you get the first demo. So I was like, cool.
Carlos.
I'm wiring it. So
Freaking
that's how that
Carlos,
went.
man.
Oh, that's Yui.
Is it? Oh, I thought it was Carlos.
Yeah, that's Yui. No, that's Yui.
That's Yui.
My bad.
Yeah.
Nah, they're both slightly darker like that.
That thing was a beast.
Especially compared to Pasty here. But yeah, when I was scrolling through his photos, I'm like, hold on a second. I know that vehicle.
Yeah.
So was this 2019 or 18?
Had to be 18 at
probably.
this point. Yeah.
Well, it could have been 19.
Because I went in 19. Me and Steven went, and a bunch of us went, and that was my first introduction to Kicker. Was that we went on tour the day after. But
let me think here.
Yeah.
20. It was 19. It was at the showdown.
What
Oh, it was 18.
what's on the plate of that? Like what year's on the zoom in on that just see if there's something on there. No, anyway.
can't see
I'd
it.
say 18.
Huh.
I think
It's worth
18
looking.
sounds right.
Yeah.
18 sounds right because I don't remember seeing it in 19.
No, it was 18 for sure.
And then this is the first. He had some dash pods in the Mazda.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
trying to learn how to fab and do more things, and that was some Audible Physics NZ3s and some oh god, I can't remember what those tweeters were, but that was just some really nice silk domes, and I was trying to learn how to fabricate, so I was like spacing things out from the dash and doing things like that, and that was my distribution inside the box.
That's why I saved it because this is what you did inside the enclosure for speaker wire distribution.
Yeah. I've
Right?
always
Bougie.
I've always
Well, I
just
mean,
tried to do things the
That's what
best
I
I
do.
could.
It's easier.
You know.
This looks like so. I saw this. This looks like something like Mike Singer built back in those days, using 4 full ranges per side.
Yeah, so
Well,
that was a bunch of Parts Express speakers I built for my buddy Jared, and all
Jared
of this stuff was Jared Knighton. He was at my wedding. You saw him. He's in my the bridal party. But everything that has been seen up to this point is all built in my front yard with a jigsaw and a lot of sanding. You know. So
all my stuff is still built in my driveway. So
Shit, all of us except for Bobby.
I mean,
this
I
was
built a lot of shit with a
and
jigsaw
Jeff.
in a driveway. I fucking got all of you guys by like double and then some. I'm sure of it. Like,
100%.
fuck around. I definitely built a gang of shit in a driveway with a jigsaw. That's some sexy shit right there.
The structure of all this was built by the jigsaw in my driveway. The fascia panels were built by Mike Sanchez in Austin. So he cut those the fascia out there, and he did the upper trim and then the lower floor. So, but yeah, those are my B2 reference amps. And then at one point I had a B2 Duo in there for the subs, like class A, B, all the things, right? And then I switched it to a 07 later. I'm pretty sure that's the Duo.
The 07 is near me.
Oh, is it? My old 07?
Yeah.
Nice.
Giovanni's got it.
It's a good amp. Yeah, that was a great amp. I loved it. That was Sydney's first build. So get rid of some of these pictures, Drew.
So you were doing custom RCAs even back then.
Yeah, so those were actually built by Tam in Houston. Those were, he calls them the cookie RCAs.
The cookies,
what he calls them. Yeah,
that's the name. Those are good RCAs. Earlier. That's Tam with the Mini Cooper, right?
Yep, that's Tam.
Nice.
So those were built by him. The old Tweak. Yep. I mean, the wiring is absolutely atrocious compared to what's in the Mazda now. But you know,
we'll get there. Don't you worry, buddy.
I'm just always trying to do my best, and that was the whole thing on this car was I've got 20 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, so I need to service it. So I was like, cool, I need to make sure I have, you know, the ability to quickly take this apart, get to my fuses per the rule book, need to have tools, all of that stuff kind of built in. That's where this car, that's the direction this took.
Baba. He had a lithium. One of the first ones.
Yeah.
That just looks good, dude.
That was the old Mazda.
That's what it looked like when I saw it in Dallas.
I'm trying to think what was in it when I first saw it. It must have been this setup.
It was this
Probably
I
was.
saw. Yeah.
This is my first mobile toys in 17, 18? Whatever year I first went, I think you still had this. I remember looking at it going, damn, it looks good.
So if you asked me at any one time during any one of these photos, like not Jeffrey currently, the Jeffrey when that photo was taken, I was proud of it.
Let me see if I have.
Hey, you absolutely should have been, man.
Absolutely.
That shit's badass.
My first Aguilin was 2018. I just checked.
So this is the new Mazda build. So now we're starting to get into that. That's the last picture. So go back to clicks, Drew. That was the last picture on the last day when I had gotten my jail sponsorship approved. I had called my 2 buddies and paid them to help me disassemble the Mazda for the final time. And I was like, cool, I'm going to take one last picture. And that was it.
Okay.
Steel roof. Steel roof. Steel roof. Steel roof. So just some nice wiring. Optical stuff, because this is the VXI hub.
Okay.
Yep.
No more Tessitate.
Yeah.
My dude.
So every wire in the car is color-coded, flame retardant Tech Flex. And when I tell you we spent 5 days, we, as in my wife and I, Sydney, at this time she was still my girlfriend, I think.
I mean, she was your girlfriend up until like a month ago. So.
Yeah, kind of. But she was still my girlfriend at the time, and so we're sitting there watching movies, tech flexing wires for 5 days.
Oh shit!
I believe
That's
it,
what
dude.
this car was.
I believe it. But no, you had to use fire retardant to take flex because that motherfucker's hot.
Fucking stupid ass motherfucker.
So we're gonna basically jump to add the Mazda as it is currently. I just skip into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
This is close-ish.
yeah,
So
it's
this is-
gone through a couple revisions, but it's close.
What do you got in the kick in the passenger kick? The sub?
W610.
Yeah,
That's
Honda
there all the
V6,
time.
Yep, that's there all the time. We can go through more updated photos here in a second. These are just
How
what
far
I've
does that go from?
Yeah,
Like
what-
how much does that encroach the feet of the passenger in the vehicle?
It's a little bit, but I still ride in the car fine. The couple times I rode in the passenger seat, I haven't cared.
You probably wouldn't be like, all right, we're driving to Vegas, and Drew's like, I'm in
So-
the shotgun.
No,
bitch."
actually,
You'd
no.
be
It'd
like,
be. I think it'd be
This
fine.
one would. This version would. So this
the current
was
version's fine.
Yeah, the current version's like 4.5 inches farther in. This
Okay,
version
okay.
was I don't want to cut up the car. I want to test and see if this front sub thing actually works and if I can figure it out.
Right.
So I did all this without cutting anything. It worked really good, and I was like, cool. Point of no return. Snip, snip, snip.
Got the sawzall.
Beep,
and
as
fucking
far-
made a
yeah.
hole.
Yeah.
It's in there like swimwear now. So
Okay.
So then you
What's
see-
going on?
You see
in,
the
yeah,
pillars. Tweeters.
What's going on up there?
One tweeter per
tweeter?
pillar.
1 tweeter per pillar.
And then this black right here is actually black vinyl. So you can't see the pillars from the outside of the car. Like I would have never thought of that ever.
It's a lot of blind spot.
It doesn't look like it in person. In pictures, it looks way worse. But it's
I
not
believe
really
it.
a bad blind
I've
spot.
seen, like looked at images of, I mean, even the Raiden and the Bloodbath, and people are like, oh my God, I didn't see it. I don't even think about it when I'm driving this fucking thing. It's
No,
just there. I'm like,
Yeah,
all
it's
right.
not.
Yeah.
That-
But I mean, I got
even if it
fucking
is a
great-
blind spot.
Yeah.
It
So-
looks way worse than it is when you're driving it. You don't barely notice it
Yeah.
because it's
fucking-
like it's far enough like
I mean,
to the left
I'm
and right.
I'm
that it
real
doesn't-
sure that when I'm driving, I'll lean a little forward and I'll lean a little back into the side to look around. But I mean, we're talking about 8.
I mean, the pillar's already
fucking
that
pillars.
big.
Yeah.
So this is
So
his
is this
rear
a ported
sub.
or sealed enclosure?
This is a rear sub setup in the
Is
car.
it sealed? Or is it
Yes.
ported?
Sealed.
It's sealed. Okay.
So to
It
get
is
proper alignment from rear subs to a front system, it has to be sealed. You can't have a pair of waves that you're trying to align.
Yeah. So that was the first version of the front sub there. You can see it sticks out pretty far.
Do you have an
Um,
image of the current?
Yeah, I'll
We'll get there. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll get there. So
Yeah,
this was the
these are
car's
just all the
first
photos I
finals.
saved earlier.
That was the car's
Oh,
first
yeah.
finals. There's Sydney's pillars. So that was my booth at finals. Again, just trying to do the best I can. I had the poster board. The box with the wiring is actually a box that shows like exactly how all the wires are terminated in the car. You've got my install book. You've got a thank you poster, which I think is greatly undervalued. I think more people need to do this because let's be frank, no one can build the car 100% by themselves. And if you are, you're a very, very skilled person.
Nah,
Someone
they're
needs
not.
some help from someone, and I think it's really important to thank
No
all
one
the
has
people.
ever in the history of ever built an entire vehicle by themselves. Nobody ever.
So-
0 people. Because that
Well,
means
of this
they
caliber.
would have to build the motor, the pistons. Someone
Shut
had
the
help
fuck
from
up,
someone.
dude. Jesus. Starting to sound like these people. Fucking, if it's not mined in America, it's not made in America. Get the fuck.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That no one has built anything 100% themselves.
Yeah,
no matter
nobody's
how,
ever built anything. You're right.
no matter how bougie they want to sound.
If you want to get technical.
So this is his. This is Sydney's car.
Yeah,
As far-
it's still in progress, by the way. But yeah, so that box was actually built by my buddy Heath Lay in Dallas. He's awesome.
A lot of people know who
Um,
Heath is.
Yep.
Yep,
They know he's
he
from
is an
the
awesome dude.
neon green, baby.
Oh yeah.
Shit, they're just
No,
built a
and
badass huge build that's coming out. All that DC stuff. Okay.
So there's the iPad Mini. Sydney rants about that all the time because I don't have cup holders in my car. But my logic is hey, this ain't a daily, like this is an SQ car.
It is your
SQ car
daily.
first.
Hey,
It is a daily, but it's my SQ car.
For y'all, for those asking questions, I'm starring a bunch of these. So if I didn't get to it, I'll probably get to it. We'll get to it later on. I'm just putting a star on so we go back to him.
So there's the current rendition of the trunk.
This is one of my favorite things, and it's so small. Those wires.
Are you talking about the wires?
Are color coded. Red on this side, blue on this side. Inside the white Tetflex, and you can slightly see the color hint.
The whole car is color coded red to blue. Sydney's favorite color is red. Mine is blue. Passenger side of the car is red. Driver side of the car is blue. Very, very silly thing, but I was like, I'm building it fresh. You know,
it's not. I don't think it's silly at all. I think that's one of the things that takes a vehicle to the next level. It's small details like that.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Mobile toys.
So just like your last build, obviously all these panels could come right off. You could access everything really quickly and all that jazz, right?
Not this one, I don't think.
So the original Mazda, everything came off like super, super quick. This one is built such that I can get to everything that needs to be serviced within the rules very, very quickly.
Press that button.
Press the button. The lid actuates up. It's on two 50-pound gas struts, and then full access to the SMD fuse block. You've got on the left side, on the driver's side, you've got that panel comes off just with a simple pull, and then that's your small device fusing, your LEDs, your relays, your head unit, your voltmeters. And then on the passenger side, the right side, there's an entire toolkit and replacement fuses for the entire car right there. So all aftermarket and factory fuses are located in there with tools to get to anything I need to get to. In a pinch, in an extreme pinch, because it's a pain in the you-know-what, I could break down every single bolt in my trunk using the toolkit that's in the right side. There's 252 button head bolts in the trunk, not a single screw in the entire car.
Chill out, bro.
That's fucking crazy.
So here's a question.
Chill out.
Your voltmeter in the front, right? Your voltmeter in the front. Did you fuse the front to back wire for the voltmeter?
Yes.
Damn, someone brought that up to me the other day, and I went, you know what? I've never fused that, not once.
Yeah.
The smaller the wire, man, like you gotta have little fuses on them shits, or you will burn.
Yeah, so each of those distribution blocks, the small device block is actually self-diagnosing just as it came. When the fuse pops, the light will turn on, kind of thing. The SMD one, I actually drilled it out. So Steve reached out to me first, made this one custom, made it backwards because my car is upside down from the correct orientation. And then, I actually drilled this all out with a Dremel and just sat there and did this for days. And it's fully self-diagnosing. So when a fuse goes out, it's wired hot to the posts where the fuses are. And then the self-diagnosing part comes from the ground on a relay. So if any of those fuses goes out, that LED light turns off.
That's fucking cool.
Right.
So
yeah.
Let's see.
I mean, I think it's cool. I think it's terribly time consuming, but I think it's one of those things that the current build of the Mazda has a lot of just details. That's how you win at some of these SQ shows when you're doing install, is just like, hey, I've got 252 button head bolts. Do you? No. I've got, I've got. Do you have a picture of the battery cover, the tie down?
I don't, but we'll be able to go through that. Go to that whenever we finish up these last couple of photos. We'll go to his car has its own Facebook.
As it should.
So that was another creativity. Point.
This is where he is currently employed, Mobile Toys in College Station, where he is their lead tuner and salesman, where he kills it.
Where is
all
College
the
Station?
in-person sales. It's about an hour and a half away from Houston.
North.
It
North
kind of
of
makes
Houston.
it's like in this little triangle. So if you put San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston, we're kind of in the middle of there.
It's where Texas A&M is also.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was Aggie Light last year. This was right after had I made the switch. Is this the first show that I competed in right after I put the VXIs in, or was that?
Yeah.
No, I didn't bring the trailer to the first one, did I?
No, this is the only time you've ever been at
You're
College
right.
Station Aggieland with the truck next to me. You
You're
swapped
right. So-
the VXI in the parking lot, and we tuned it at my house until 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah. So that same show, I brought the Tahoe with me, which you can see it kind of sitting back here. And so I had my gooseneck with me, which means I had all the tents and the fans and the table. So I'm like, Jeffrey's like, oh, I don't know if I want to set the booth up. I'm like, nah, bro. We got tents, fans, tables. Let's set the booth up. So we set the booth up. And then I was right here. This F-150 is a local friend of mine, James. He has Utopia M front stage and the IB-15 cut in the floor of his truck.
Damn.
Yep.
How's that thing sound? Pretty good. I'd imagine
Yeah,
so.
that's good.
That's he's one of the other people who doesn't own a shop or isn't. He's not involved in audio at all. He owns a flooring company, but he also has a JL Max. He got his before I got mine by a pretty significant margin. And he's local to me. He lives like 10 minutes from the house.
Jeff, have you ever messed with IB stuff, or you pretty much just have always had like a sealed and ported enclosure?
So I've personally never. Oh, there's Dan Merritt. I know Dan Merritt's in the chat. We can tag Dan
Merritt, SQ Jesus,
SQ Jesus, and then Nick Wingate right there too. No, I've never personally done IB, but I've tuned.
It just
many
seems
IB
so
setups.
popular in there. Yeah, it seems very popular in the SQ community.
There's pros and cons. I have my own opinions on them. I prefer to go sealed when I can. Over if you gave me ultimate selections, I'm going to try and go sealed. But there's pros and cons to them.
So this is a screenshot. The night before the show, 1:15 a.m. Beat booping on my truck.
This is like the start of it. Like we didn't go to bed till 2:30.
And I don't want to be blamed for that because you and SQ Jesus were tuning on his car for hours, so I don't want to hear it. This car dominates a lot of far more expensive systems, and it's all JL audio. I guess you haven't told everyone what's in the car. Tell them what's in the car.
So there's JL Audio C7 tweeters and the pillars, C7 mid-ranges in the dash. There are ZR800s, which are JL's old 8-inch mid-bass in the front doors. There's a 10W6 in the front floorboard, C7 rear fill in the back pillars, two 12W7s in the back for the subsonic, infrasonic bass, I guess if you want to call it. 22 hertz and down is what the W7s are for. And
Crazy.
And then basically the amplification is two VXI 606s, one VXI 1005, and then two RD 1500s for the back subs. Basically, the car's segregated left and right. So the left amp powers the whole left side, the right amp powers the whole right side. The center amp powers the rear fill front sub, and then optional center channel for later. I built in for future proofing. There is no center channel in it right now, but one day when there's an up mixer available, I wanted to be able to do 2-seat. So that's pretty much the car, along with a whole lot of work. Mark Eldridge, Dan Merritt, James Davidson.
45 minutes of tuning, and it's done.
David Alanis, Chris Lewis, they're the guys at Audio Source, the guys at Mobile Toys before I worked there. There's been so many people that helped with the car,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was at Mark's class, just, trying to help run things.
This was last year. Yep.
Run the Max. Yep.
I took this photo.
So
there y'all go.
So that was the most recent year. So it was back-to-back Triple Crown winning car.
For those who don't know what Triple Crown is, what is Triple Crown?
So what it used to be, and I hope it goes back to, is where it's SPL capped at 140 dB with the sound quality two sound quality judges and one install judge. As of right now, they got rid of the SPL capped. So now it's two sound judges, technically three, but it's two judges. One score is averaged twice, and then install. And basically all of that is averaged together to form a final score. The 2021, the car won across the board with a very tiny margin. 2022, the car was actually beat in sound by about 20 points by a really good car out in California, Challenger. And it's a really, really great sounding car. But the install,
obviously.
The install did its thing, and it went home with the second Triple Crown. So,
so as you win Triple Crowns, what happens?
I mean, you take your trophy home just like everyone else, I guess. I don't know.
Is there any type of like points handicap that goes on?
No. So
for some reason I thought there was.
No, there's points handicapped assigned to what class you originally started in. So to put it in SPL terms, pretend I have a no wall against your wall build. Well, they might, give me a 10 point, a 10 dB handicap because I'm in a lower class that should score lower, all things being equal.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha. That makes sense. So like if I'm in Pro-Am and you're in Expert.
Yeah. And so there's a points handicap that was applied. The rules were recently changed to where it's no longer the case. But this year's Triple Crown, the 2022 that's in the photo, there was a handicap applied to cars in lower classes versus this car. I had to score 90 points. Some other cars only had to score 60 or 30 to get maximum points, and the car still pulled out ahead in install, which I thought was really cool.
Gotcha. See, I was a little confused on that. So that makes sense. And how many people win Triple Crown every year?
So there's two Triple Crowns total every year. So there's a 1 seat and a 2 seat. I've only competed in the 1 seat. The 2 seat cars are just absolutely phenomenal. And they're built to a much higher level than my car. But there's two Triple Crowns given every year in Iasca.
Gotcha. So it's not like there's a Triple Crown per class. It's just one Triple Crown, 1 seat, and one 2 seat.
Yeah, it's grouped into 1 seat, 2 seat, and it's kind of segregated down the middle on like the middle to low class, and then the upper classes are their own Triple Crown. So
gotcha. Makes sense.
Like a car like the Civic, the center drive Civic, or Scott Bawalda's Black Betty, or any of these crazy cars like Mark Eldridge's NASCAR, they would all be in an upper class, not the class that I'm competing in.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So
domination. You can say it.
No, I'm proud of how the car does.
I'll say it for it. Domination.
Well, I mean, obviously, you're never going to just stick with this. Do you have plans for?
I have more photos.
Do you want to talk about new plans, or?
I have some photos coming up.
Yeah,
he's already done to the car since winning this.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Drew, your mic is still doing that funny thing pretty frequently.
I hate it. I hate it.
I just want to make sure you're aware.
I was not aware, but I'm going to go buy a new microphone tomorrow.
So this is all pictures of Resnick's. After the last 2022 finals, I redid the entire front doors, with their new fiber mat product. It's fantastic. If you haven't used it, definitely recommend it.
I think I want to do fiber mat in between my headliner and my roof.
Is that what that is? That white? That's fiber mat?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really, really good stuff. Yeah. Decoupler and absorber at the same time. It's not going to absorb water, which is really cool. Comes with a sticky back adhesive, so you just simply cut and stick. It's really cool. Great product.
How thick is that?
Oh, there's
they have 2 sizes
and 45.
Yep. Yeah.
How
the
thick's
four-
this?
I mean, the 25 you can fit and squish down to just about anything. The 45 is use your best judgment. You know, you got to have a significant space there. And worst case scenario, you can kind of peel off a couple layers and kind of custom make it to fit. So.
All right, and then that was just you working on it.
Yeah, just templating and stuff like that. You know.
Give me one
Make a
second. I'm going to
template.
pull up fiber mat real quick just to see what kind of thickness it lists.
So you made that
Yeah.
little template there out of the paper first, then you put it on your mat, cut the mat, toss it on there.
Yeah,
And so
that way it's a nice clean sheet.
45
You know.
is 45 millimeters.
And
Kinda
25
what
is
it
25 millimeters, and then it squishes to
Yeah,
10% or 20% or something.
it squishes pretty good.
45 says it can go down to about 7 millimeters.
Okay, so like if you had a big gap, 45. If you have a very small gap, 25, and you're good.
Yeah.
And
And it'll stop rattles, it'll decouple, and it'll absorb any frequencies that happen to leak into there. I mean, it's 3-in-1 hydrophobic. It's a great product.
Yeah, so
Very
it says
cool.
25 can go down to about 4 millimeters. So
Yeah, 20% ish. Oh,
It'll
big booty
that?
Judy. This is my first ASQS. No, second. Second. Because we're going across the bridge. Second, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, Bobby, you recently went to this class.
I'm about to say,
Yeah,
Bobby will recognize this.
I'm on class number 5, I think, and every single time I go, I learn something.
I bet. I was talking about sending. At first it was like, I'm gonna send Tyson and Brett, and then I was like, maybe we're all gonna go. I'm like, I don't know. It'd be expensive, but we got to figure it out. You know what I mean? It's like, and then Allison, my wife, was like, why don't we see if we can fly Mark out here and we pay for his whole trip? And we pay him a bunch of money, and it's less than if we all flew there, or maybe he comes here and does the seminar at Gately Audio, and we set up everything for him, and just and he makes similar, if not more, and just takes a little trip out to California for a few days, But yeah. Anyway, like that's an idea that we would entertain for sure.
Yeah.
But,
so
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of knowledge in that room. I mean, we were learning from Mark and
that's my biggest
everybody
thing.
else there. It was super fun. So
that's my biggest thing is you can learn a ton from Mark. He knows, he has forgotten more than a lot of us will ever know, but you also just learn like the Denny's trip or the IHOP trip at 1:30 in the morning. We're just talking about like advanced DSP stuff with Tweak and VXIs. It's like I pick up stuff then. It's like, man, I would never thought of that. Or like go eat pizza with everybody. Just the conversation. Everyone is so high level that there's something to learn from everybody constantly. Yeah, this was a great one. So got Scott, Angie. I don't know that guy. Mark Eldridge, and for those who know, Steve Teresi, VP of something at JL Audio. Technical services, I think.
Steve is the legend. He's an awesome guy. He knows a ton. And my favorite part about Steve is that it could be someone that says, "Hey, what's a crossover?" Or it could be someone that's like, "Hey, how do I do differential rear fill?" It could be any very range of topic, and Steve will have the same enthusiasm each and every time to each and every person, and he's done it for 30 plus years. He's a freaking awesome dude.
That's a fact. So then just a picture of the Max in a truck and mobile toys. One of his latest modifications. This is the back of the car stripped. That is Resonix Barrier. Barrier is some thug stuff. Let me go read the exact stack of what is in Barrier. It is gang stuff.
So this is reaching back from my.
No, this is
Resonix.
Nick Apicella or Pelica, whatever his name is.
Apicella, I think is how I pronounce it.
So,
but this is SPL stuff. SPL stuff applied to SQ is what this is.
The stuff ain't cheap.
Okay.
So let's see. All right, so the cheapest price is $275. No,
Is it like
$290.
I mean, is it just like a hardcore deadener, kind of like the
It
Sundown
is.
stuff, or
Let me find
It's hard
the
to
list.
tell.
of the
Actually
label.
lead.
Yeah, so
It's-
there's a sheet
it's
of lead
lead.
in there.
Yeah.
Remove, present, share screen. Boop.
So it's lead wrapped in 2 pieces of CCF, very bendable, easily cuttable, and more.
And it holds shape.
Yeah, holds shape very well. And so you use it to block road noise is how he intends it. And it's also, he advertises that you can, seal off your door and make it more like an enclosure with it, just cut it into shape and kind of screw it in or bolt it in, however you want to do it. And it works really good for that. So I was like, well, why don't I just seal off the whole back of my car? I know that the car gets louder when I open the trunk, so I've got cancellation happening. Why don't I just take the whole car apart, seal off the whole back end of the car? And sure enough, it got like a dB and a half louder. It was pretty cool, and I got a lot less road noise doing it too.
And this was like what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah.
Now, I don't think I would want to use that in place of where I would use the Sky High deadener. I mean, I'm not sorry, not Sky High. The Sundown
No,
Vibraflex style product.
no, the
No.
two different things. No one makes a product like the Sundown deadener, to my knowledge.
Right.
That is the most hardcore. I need to add mass and stop this panel from tearing in half. Deadener.
Yeah.
Right. So even
this
in
is
that
a noise
application, the Sundown product would probably work better.
It probably would have sealed what he wanted to seal, but then it wouldn't have had any of the high frequency blocking that also has.
Okay.
And it's also the main thing about that is, so sure, could you stack 6 inches of Vibraflex or something and just like stack up multiple layers of it? Sure. But that's an 1/8 inch thick and it squishes down.
Yeah, different applications. Yeah,
So expensive as
Jeffrey,
all
I'm
get
not
out.
sure if you've messed with the Sundown stuff yet. I'll bring some with me to Aggie Lane,
okay.
and we'll put it on something.
It's
And,
pretty fucking
I'll
amazing.
bring the torch. I'll bring the matte gas.
But no, so you would do that, Bobby, after you've sound treated the car with your deadener of choice. You would then layer
Add
the whole
this
car.
product, and that would help
then
with reflections and stuff, right? Everywhere.
no road noise.
Road noise.
So-
Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, of course.
So I think this is all Ref 6 pictures. So that's
Is this
the
the
mid bass
current?
adapters. Yeah, that's the current sub, and I have some other pictures of it too, so you can check it out too.
So these are 3D printed, 100% fill. They weigh 3-something pounds per adapter.
2 pounds.
I thought it was 3.
2 pounds.
My bad.
what do you mean by
Two-
100% fill?
100 pounds per adapter.
Let me see if I can.
I don't have a picture of them, but they were 3D printed by a buddy of mine in Austin.
So
he
normally
does
when
awesome.
you 3D print, you don't do 100% fill. Like the inside is always normally some air, because that way you don't have to use nearly as much material. It's not
Right,
as dense. This is 100% fill. So it's about as solid as you can get without doing like a billet aluminum bracket.
Yeah. Or resin
Yeah.
printing.
And so these are 100% fill, so I can limit resonances, make them as strong as I can. I then sound treated them with deadener, and then I put Resonix 12 millimeter foam when they had that to seal it off against my
I
door.
love that stuff.
What speaker is that? Is that the JL?
That is a JL ZR 800.
Okay.
That's the ZR800. It's fantastic.
That's
mid-bass.
also a 6.5, or is that an 8 now?
It's an 8.
It's an 8.
It's an 8.
It's an 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually, so from the pictures I was looking at, these went in his car 2017 or 18.
What's that
Like the
color?
No, that-
Adam?
Plastic.
Don't know.
Is it
Yeah,
plastic?
polypropylene, I think. But no, those mid bases were originally in my car in like 2017, I've done 4 or 5 different adapters, aiming them different, making them stronger, that kind of thing. Just
Dude, it's
SPL
crazy how many
testing stuff.
cheat codes you have to SQ on this page that no one looks at. Like, I'm looking at a bunch of cheat codes right this second in this photo, and just no one's going to go look at it.
Yep.
The
80
80. Well, everyone's got an 80 PRS, but this is a special P80 PRS. It is custom modified to where his OEM buttons, these still work, which apparently is not normal.
Yeah, so this was modded by Chris Lewis in Austin. He's the electrician, mad scientist guy. He repairs very expensive amplifiers and things, $20,000 amplifiers, and asked him if he would, micro solder onto that board and diagnose it for me, and it works really well. I change all the tracks, volume, everything using that. So
I'm scrolling to go find the pillars because they're possibly my favorite, especially the last couple months I've been learning about how my truck's reacting to things and what's doing this and that, and your pillars are now even more impressive to me now that I know why they are the way they are.
Yeah, you gotta keep on scrolling
down.
Yeah, the pillars were in there before the whole Triple Crown build was started.
The tweeter's mounted to the metal behind everything.
Yeah, it's got its own aluminum bracket.
Yeah, bro, you slacking. You could have cut this out. This metal behind here, you could have just gone straight all the way to the outside, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That is 100% my plan in my truck. I'm going to take a hole saw and just straight till it is the outside A-pillar metal that the tweeter's attached to.
Yeah,
that is.
You can definitely do that.
That totals your vehicle.
I have an 05 Chevy truck with 255,000 miles. It'd be high.
So why just like the single tweeter in that certain position, like in such a, like, obviously it looks like there's 3 tweeters there, but like what's the reasoning behind such a big
you could squeeze like 5 more
grill
in
and all
there,
that
Jeff.
stuff.
You just have a little
right?
So the reasoning for that,
if you just
was,
tucked a bunch in there and they're just all in, just however they go in there, and they're just all
and only one's hooked up.
Put some dum goop on the back of each one, just mush them in, and they're like, give me, squeeze one more in right here, and then it's like,
yeah, it'll be fine. It's fine. Just do it, bro.
How many JL tweeters you got? Oh, there's 11 in there. One of them is actually wired up.
Yeah.
The reason for it was,
I don't know which one. I think it's that one.
No, the reason for it was twofold. Reflection control, which Drew has recently found out about reflection control. And then the main one, which I think everyone could appreciate, is, think back to SPL. When you build something and you want to redo it, what do you have to do? You have to tear it all down and redo the whole thing. Well, if I ever wanted to move my tweeter or change to a different size tweeter or re-aim it or whatever, all I build is a new bracket and I bolt it back in place.
Because there's so much open space behind you can put it anywhere you want. So you don't have to rebuild this entire panel.
I see.
I like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
that
pretty cool.
Sense.
I mean, you could be like, I'm not sure which one I like. 3 of them in there. You're just like, change a little connector and be like, that one's good. But yeah.
Yep. And then there's a third reason, but I'm not sure if he wants to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll save that stuff for later.
All right.
But yeah, so that was version 1 of the dash pod. So again, going back to the SPL thing, how many times have you built something, found a way to do it better, and then rebuilt them? Right?
Oh, Bobby is the king of that. Bobby will scrap an entire multi-$1,000 enclosure to rebuild a new one because he knows the other way's better.
Yeah, and so taking that same SPL mentality into SQ, if you find a way to make it better rather than, full circle, rather than just trying to EQ past it and all that stuff, make it better. So I'm on version 3 of the dash right now, of the dash mids.
Let's go back to the top.
Let's see the 3 different versions.
All right.
There's two pictures on the website. There's only 2 pictures on here, but there's 3 versions in
this
there.
is currently, right?
Yeah, that's current.
How far under that grill is that mid? Okay, I see it now. Very cool.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So, and there's not pictures of it up on the page, I think, but there's a ton of reflection control inside there, similar to what you were talking about earlier, Bobby. You know, so basically it is, you know, I found the angle that I wanted through testing, 3 or 4 different test mock-ups kind of things. And then, you know, that mixture is a very unique mixture from Dan Merritt. Can't discuss the contents, but it involves
Also
fiberglass. Also top secret. And so basically I made a mold and then I poured it to form the shape, and then just body worked it just like you normally would, and added a grill and bolted it
So
in.
you kind of made
all that stuff.
some bitchin' foam there of
Yeah,
some form. Just
so
a
funny enough,
badass acoustical composite that absorbs sound. That's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me bring up his comment since he's about to dip. His coworker has VXIs and Utopias. Hot. I need to go.
Yeah.
Max. I need to bring the Max over because their shop's only like 30 minutes from me. I need to bring the Max over there, tune that thing up.
Yep. VXIs are awesome. Utopias are awesome. Dan Merritt himself.
Is it mushy?
No, it is not.
Is it porous?
It's after it's dry. You can pull up a picture of it, Drew, if you want. After it's dry, I want to get my buddy at the concrete plant, David Mix, to put it in a pressure, like one of the things that test PSI breakage and stuff.
Wait, is that it?
Yeah, it is dumb strong. So.
But so you saw the version 1. Basically, it was the grill, the mid in the factory grill looked like.
Right. That was version 2. Version 1 was below the grill.
Oh, yeah. And there's no pictures of version 1 because that was silly.
Yeah.
And then this is the current setup, ish.
Yeah. That was
so
my trip over to
off
MTI.
axis at the windshield.
Yeah.
This one. Ooh.
They are. So this is my trip over to MTI before I worked there. Chris Pate was nice enough to help me get some really nice looking grills on my pillars that James made, and you know, the dash panels that I made. Chris helped get the grills looking tidy. So and James Davidson, very, very, very good buddy of mine.
I'm told that I need James Davidson to work on my truck. That's what I'm told.
James is awesome.
That's what I'm told.
He's got a very unique way of looking at things, and he understands SQ and he understands fabrication. If you want something to be bulletproof, James is one of the guys on the planet that can make it bulletproof.
Well, look, we need to tell James. I got a challenge for him. He needs to keep my dash alive in my truck. I just don't think he can do it. I don't think James can do it. Yeah, I said it.
This thing is probably my favorite thing in the car.
Oh, so
out of my whole car,
all of you know Casey Sims, right?
Yeah.
What is this? Okay.
It's a battery tie down.
But what does it do?
So
it ties down the batteries.
Casey Sims makes those dust caps that change colors using the coating, right? So I was like, yo, dude, I need something just to add some creativity points to this thing. Would you be willing to make something completely one-off and custom for me? And him and I have been friends since the dawn of time, and he was just like over the moon, you know, to be able to build this for me, and I was over the moon to have him do it for me. And so what it is, I sent him a template, and he made a full carbon fiber piece out of the white carbon fiber, and then put the JL logos that I also sent him out of black carbon fiber, and then put his paint coating on there so that it changes colors based on the ambient temperature in the trunk. It'll start off at black at 65 degrees. It'll go through the colors of the rainbow, ending at 95 degrees at about the purple area. So if I open the trunk, you can Yeah.
Fuck, I had no idea.
Are you listening? Okay. I
Yeah.
need this dash to stay alive from this.
Just put foam in it. Just get rid of
It
it.
needs to be fully functional. I want my AC to work. I'm not playing around about my AC not working. Yeah. So this is currently wrapped in something. It hasn't shattered yet, so that's good. But it is not far of this world because I'm doing new subs and 2 more amps this year. At some point, I need to send Bobby some mids or 1 mid. Bobby's going to build me some door panels for this thing, and they're going to be just. We got some ideas floating around already that we talked about doing in them. It's going to be hot, dude. I'm excited because Bobby, the best SPL vehicle I've ever heard, best sound demo vehicle I've ever heard, currently is the Raiden truck. That 450 that Bobby built that I went out to go mess with. 8 6.5s in the front doors each, 8 6.5s per door. In sealed boxes in the doors, stack fab sealed boxes in the doors, and then true 3-way. So it's 6.5s in the doors, 3s, and then the CDRT or CRT horn from B2. So 4 of those per pillar, 4 3s and 4 tweeters per pillar, running 3-way active, and man, it's
loud.
8s in the rear doors, 4 8s in each rear door.
Yeah, 4 8 seal boxes in each rear doors, and man, I tell you, and that was,
Bobby, why didn't you guys go with 8s in the front instead of the 6.5?
They would not fit.
Just won't fit.
So when
I'm dying to know what the Slam Halen's going to do with these single VXI 10s in the front doors. Based on everything we've heard from the B&C guys, I feel like this is going to be really good, and I'm almost going to be trying to talk Drew into the things of that nature.
Yeah, scaling back from multiples,
which
bigger speakers.
I don't mind. So I don't mind changing from Neopro V3s because they're end of life at this point. So I do Vex 10s or something, or
I mean, just one in each front door, but we made I don't know, the fucking pods in the Slam Halen are like, bruh, they're so fucking picked. But I tell you, Colt did a really good job of doing all the glass work and shooting them with some really cool texture paint, and they're shaped really nicely, and they fastened to the door perfectly snug. And at first it was like, Jesus. And then you look at the whole truck and you're like, Jesus, what the fuck? It's it's wild ass. Do
you have any pictures of it, Bobby, or not yet?
No, because it's kind of one of there's a couple little things here or there, but none of the doors or anything. But the guys are like wiring amps and installing the DSP and like that motherfucker might play tomorrow. So,
okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm
be
excited to see
live,
the doors.
I'll be doing all the pictures and videos. I plan to drive it around for a week or so. My Allie doesn't know this, but we're going to Ray Pimley's wedding on Saturday.
Okay.
And I'm hoping to drive that fucking Slam Halen.
So James and Dan are excited about the name. Tell them what Slam Halen is.
I'll
go find some pictures.
96, I think, or 95 Mazda B4000 extra cab, and it's it got a really nice red paint job, and then the owner graphicked it out like it's Eddie Van Halen's red guitar with all the stripes, and I mean, he's just a really fun dude. He's pretty wealthy, and he's a smart guy, and like he's got fucking McLarens and Ferraris, and like he's got like random Viper and like the fucking most perfect pristine badass IROC I've ever seen in my life, and we built a 218 build in a fucking Blazer for him a few years ago, and he's just a really fun dude, and he was like, I have this idea and I want to do it with like a mini truck. And so it's coming together pretty well. We got,
is that what's in the back?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Holy
shit, dog.
Yeah.
Oh, nasty.
12K.
Okay.
There's another picture where they put the lights on it and they turn
it on. Are those
it on.
15s or those 12s?
12s.
12s.
Where the
things gonna
fuck
be
is
rowdy,
that?
dude.
No, not there. There is. You're on the Gately. Oh, go to Instagram. Yeah, go to Insta, and then
Things gonna be
and go to the
nasty. I
Gately
can't
Audio
wait.
Instagram. Allie posted the picture with all
Is
the
it gonna
lights.
be at the
that we put
barbecue?
on. Oh
By
yeah.
chance? Oh
Yes.
fuck
Yes.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Heck.
I need to go to one of those barbecues one day.
Dude, come to
out
this
to the
one.
barbecue. Come hang out.
Come on down, dude.
Okay,
I just
Bobby,
need
how
to, I
did you
need to do it on the weekend.
how did
How
you
did I
do
what?
this?
I didn't do shit, man. The guys just put lights on them motherfuckers.
On the
What?
motors? Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Bruh.
So cool.
It's no fun. The
Yeah,
acrylic
yeah.
window's an inch and a half thick, and it's got Allison designed the Van Halen like logo and made it an S, and so it's like Slam Halen. That's us fucking with Steve's big stupid 33-inch sub.
Big stupid.
I mean, I love it, but it's awesome, and I can't wait to go to Steve's house and hear that shit. But
Are there any more photos of Slam Halen, or is that the only one?
no,
that
I
posted?
don't think so.
Well, there's the Raiden
This
truck.
Are you on the Gately audio? Try the
Yeah, I'm on
Bobby
Gately audio.
Gately. Try the Bobby Gately one.
Bro, just look at this flex of a photo.
Like looking mythical.
So go to your personal page.
Allie takes good pictures of me. Yeah, it's my little. That was our 3900 watt amplifier.
Which one?
That picture of me standing there with an amp in my hand. That was our.
Oh, gotcha.
Keep scrolling. It should be there somewhere. Maybe. Maybe not. Nope. I guess I don't have one. I might have shared one in the. I might have put it in my story because I wanted it to disappear.
That's probably what it was. So I'm looking now for some photos of the Raiden's pillars so I can show everybody what I was talking about. I mean, here's a good idea. Here's Bloodbath. This is a truck out of Houston. So 4 3s, 4 tweeters, and then sealed door panels. Look at all that. Lexi.
I need to see if I can track this guy down. I'd love to hear that thing.
Yeah, and then the Raiden truck.
It's a beast. We need to put a DSP in that thing. But yeah.
Oh, so here's the back doors. Ignore that.
So we're check this out. We are taking a lot of that apart. Customer had a really good idea, and he was like, "Hey, can we do that? Can we redo the headliner with suede?" And I was like, we could. It's gonna be a lot of work, Jim." And he's like, "I just really would like it to be suede." And I was like, "Okay." And then we were reupholstering the rear doors because the way that the seats were moving around and the way the thing was rattling, we were getting a little bit of rub at blend the upholstery. So we modified you can see that corner of that. I'm all pointing at the screen like you guys can see what I'm pointing at. That right there.
Yeah,
so we're fixing that. And so we did a test wrap of the suede of one of those panels. And so now we're going to do suede on all of the doors. We're going to take the inserts out of the doors and we're going to machine the same Gately pattern on the door inserts. And you can see, if you look at the roof right there, you can see some of the screws that fasten that trim piece on the roof. We're going to make new wood inserts for the roof that are going to hide all of the screws. So, and that'll all be done in suede. So much of the interior will look quite a bit different. And then the guys at Sky High are putting on an any level, which is the hydraulic lift system, and 30-inch wheels. And we're going to make the custom suspension link similar to what I did for John Raby for the Raiden as well.
So this is the truck where I got the idea. So this is the one I was fortunate enough to get to tune a little bit before I knew what I was doing. Luckily, I told him I didn't know what I was doing, so it's fine. But even with my basic understanding of tuning, these 8.6 sealed and these pillars, bro, it sounds so good.
It sounds so good that even after a weekend of demoing that thing, when we were driving that thing back home, I was still rocking it full tilt because I was enjoying it.
It sounds fantastic. But anyway, so that's where I got the idea. So, James, if you think you can make my dash not blow apart.
So
I
Bobby,
can bring
Pull
the
that
top
thing
with
apart and fiberglass the shit out of it, and just make sure you get really good adhesion, and you're good.
so Bobby, after Jim saw those inserts and stuff you made for John at SEMA, he was like, "I need
Yeah.
those."
He's like, yeah, I need all new suspension so I can have those.
I
Yeah.
love that, dude. I
I mean,
love that.
Jim's awesome, man. He's the fucking best. Like he'll call me up and be like, "Hey, can you think of anything else we should do to the truck?"
What can we do?
I'm,
Just spend my
I'm
money.
all, Jim, what are you doing, buddy?
He's like, bro, I just had a really good week this week.
He's
and
like, I just sold
So
35
that's the
AC units.
3900 watt amp there in that picture.
I love that color, that blue.
Wow.
Yeah, dual inputs, and we
The amp
tested
looks
on
good,
Steve's
too.
dyno, 3900 watts at 13.8 volts. So
Nice.
that's how I'm going to rate
Speaking
the amp. I'm
of,
going to get the fucking amp, the prototype, go to Steve's, put it on the fucking dyno, set that shit to 13.8. However much power it makes that's how much I'm going to fucking rate the damn amp at.
So
Yeah,
those
like how it should be.
suspension links he was talking about, these are those suspension links.
That's aluminum laminated to mica powder and resin laminated to acrylic and 3-dimensionally engraved as one. There's all of them.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I had to leave the CNC running all night all by itself. I'm like, all right, looks like this is going to take 14 hours. I guess I'll
Go home.
I'll go the fuck home. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm all walking out, watching my CNC just sitting there running. I'm all, okie dokie. Fucking,
This is that truck out of Houston, the Bloodbath.
that's my wife operating it there.
Yeah, I heard you saying that you want to put a DSP in there, and I 100% agree. I know
the
you
back
already
door
know
sounded
this.
awful after we swapped those amps. I think there was some tuning issues going on, or maybe some blown speakers.
I want to tune this.
Yeah, there's something going on.
Yeah, it looks
but
fun.
I know you'll figure it out.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, well,
I got the
we'll
Max,
hear it at the
Drew,
barbecue,
I
I'm
can-
guessing.
flop that thing behind that thing, and we can have fun with it. So,
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
I,
hoping.
I say I forgot you had a Max, but I didn't forget. I knew that, but I forgot for some reason that we could just remote in and just all watch
Right.
what you're doing.
yeah, like, and that'd be the best way for me and the guys to. This was at NorCal Truck Mania, and check this out. We were at NorCal Truck Mania, was at Sac Raceway, and there's a drag strip, and there was fucking like 4,000 horsepower race cars doing runs down the drag strip, and we're playing the Raiden, and they came over and told me I had to turn it off because I was pissing off the neighbors.
Ugh, I saw
sound.
audio control. I saw an audio
With
control
4,000 horsepower fucking cars running by, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I couldn't believe it. That's the rendering of the Post Malone box.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
That-
Well,
that's pretty cool.
getting back to what our guest here, Jeff. Everybody basically has their like bitten by the bug story. So like, what's yours? What got you into all of this stupid shit that we do?
So it's kind of silly, but the short version is I was playing racquetball. Racquetball is one of my hobbies that I've done since about 12. I was playing racquetball on outdoor courts in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and this C10 or not C10, it was an S10. So like a 2001 S10 comes turn the corner, and it is just beaten. I mean, now that I know what I'm talking about a little bit, it was probably doing like a $150, right? It's probably a 50
But
flat
still,
and a no, I mean, but in my head, I was like, that is the thing, right? At this moment in time, I'm gearing up to, go to the Olympic Training Center for racquetball. I'm like, okay, racquetball is like where I want my whole life to go. Maybe I want to do this thing, but like racquetball is my life. And then this thing turns the corner and a light switch happened. And I was just like, nope.
That's it.
Racquetball's fun.
Bass.
Still doing it, but audio.
Really? You were gonna do
That was
Olympic
it.
racquetball, and you heard a system, and you're like, "Fuck racquetball! I'm gonna do audio."
So
I had something
if
like
y'all
that
don't-
happen when I was like 17
Y'all don't
years
believe me.
old, and I raced RC cars.
I believe you, but
literally
that's
still-
crazy, dude.
Still own all my racquetball stuff, and I still love playing racquetball. But you know,
Taylor Gardner
Yeah,
would
no.
smoke you, bro.
yeah, that's another story for another time. T-Fade, the short version on that one. T-Fade was feeling himself one day, and he was like, "I could beat you at anything." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you can't beat me at racquetball." And he's like, "No, I can beat you at anything. I'm athletic." And I'm like, "Cool, I'll spot you 14 points, and I'll still win." The game's
14
by the way.
points.
Games to 15. That's awesome, dude.
The disrespect.
All right, so
Anybody
you
who's
do
that
this.
confident, I'm not believing in their shit, man. Like, you know what I mean? Not you, Jeff. When somebody's talking shit like that, I'm always all, probably not.
Yeah, it's like the guy
I'm
talking shit
athletic.
about.
Be like, you're probably not. You're probably clumsy as fuck. And you just don't know how shitty you really are at everything. But that's cool.
Oh, I found a picture of the. Sorry, I was scrolling through his Facebook. Boop.
So you hear this S10 roll through, it changes something for you. And so what do? What's the first thing you do? What'd you do?
I go to bestbuy.com and I start putting together a system. And then
That's crazy, dude.
yeah, like literally my whole life was spun 180 degrees, and I'm like, cool, audio is what I want to do. And then I was like, oh, this is expensive. I'm gonna learn how to do it myself. Joins SMD SteveMedesigns.com. Reads. Like that's my whole life spun instantly.
Yeah. Did you even get to see what was in this truck, or it was just you just heard it and it just happened?
No, I just heard it driven by, and I was like, this is it.
And
You know,
had
this
you
is where
never
my life's
knew
going.
that cars with bass like that, like that's one of the first time you heard a car with bass?
Yeah,
Or-
I mean, you know, like it's,
Really?
I mean, apparently my dad had a couple EV15s in his Volkswagen back in the day, but I was too young to remember. And so
I
maybe, you know, riding around as a baby with bass, it's like it was ingrained in me. And then one
Right.
day
Trigger
when I
something.
heard it, it was like light switch, and it just
Boom.
freaking flipped me around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
That's
was
it.
cool. That looks
That
fun.
is super cool, dude. I love
Yeah.
that. That's so cool. I can't
So,
believe that's
and
how you got into audio.
Every word of it's true. Yeah. The
Yeah.
whole thing. And then so I instantly, and funny enough, and I finally met my one of the people I look up to, Steve Mead, a few years ago at Knowledge Fest. But I went home that night and I started YouTube. And I found, I think it was you know, Insane Bass number 27 or something from Steve Mead's old videos. And
Sure.
went down a rabbit hole in like 2 weeks of watching bass videos on YouTube, and then signs up for Steve Mead Designs. The rest is history.
Man, I
That's
think
really
Steve's
cool.
videos. That's how anyone under the age of 40 got into it.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, because I got into it before the internet, obviously, but anybody born into the internet, I mean,
Yeah, I mean-
Steve's got a huge influence for sure. Like I was way deep into car audio before I knew about Steve Mead at all.
Nah, bro. I started watching
Yeah.
Steve before I could drive. So
That's
Yeah.
that's awesome.
yeah, and then me and Jeffrey became friends somehow. Still don't know why, but we did. He decided, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna help this mildly retarded guy get his stereo sounding okay. And I was like, thanks, man.
So I've
Please
always
help.
had the personality of I'll help anyone that is willing to
Help themselves.
ask for help, or you know, that is willing to listen. Because the worst thing, in my opinion, is like, hey, what should I do? Okay, I'm gonna do none of that. You know,
Oh,
that right.
Those are called ask holes.
Yeah, assholes.
Yeah,
So
the worst.
you know, I just chimed in one day and I gave Drew some advice, and he was like, cool, I'm gonna try that. And then like we just started talking. That's pretty much how it went. So
you know,
And now
look.
they're so man.
now you guys are best friends.
I get calls. I get calls almost every single day. If it's not 5 to 8 calls a week, and we, you know, I probably answer, you know, a dozen or so calls a day at the shop between me and Ali and Brett and a couple of the other guys. But you get people are like, I follow you and Steve Mead, or I found you from Steve Mead, or I contacted Steve Mead and he told me to call you. And I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I tell Steve all the time how much I appreciate what he does for us, man, because it is a lot. And he is fucking amazing. Like I'm working on something and I'm like a little bit like, I'm not sure which avenue I want to go down with how I'm building this shit. I'd be like, hey, I'm working on it. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. And he'd be like, I would do this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, I'm kind of leaning this way. And I'm going to take your vote on that. And I'm going to, and sometimes I'll like, oh, actually, I really like that part of his idea. I'm going to kind of make this mixture of things. Or sometimes I'm like, I'm going to do exactly what fucking Steve said because it really made the most sense. And we'll just do that shit. But the when you start talking about the asshole fucking things, man, I get a lot of customers that call and they're like, hey man, yeah, I want to put 218s in my trunk. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that. You don't have room. I don't know, man. They fit. I read online, it said my trunk is 31 cubic feet of space. And it's like, that's not how that works. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, I do. That's part of why you called me, right? I'm like, you called me to find out if that makes sense. And I just told you no. Like, so like 215, 2 or 3 15s then? Like, no. How about 212s? Let's do 212s. That really is
He's
what
like,
fits best. They're like, man. And I'm like, look, dude, you can have 218s perform like shit and be not nearly as loud as 212s performing well. Like, like you gotta put 2 gnarly ass 12s in your trunk and it'll rip metal. Or you can put 2 18s in there and have it sound like ass and do nothing. So and no, and I'm like, listen, like if you're that much on the fence, man, I'm probably not that interested in building anything for you. Even if you take my advice and you put the 212s in, you're gonna swear that I led you astray. Like,
yeah,
no,
you
it's
don't
a
want to
bad
put your name on
idea.
shit like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, and I won't compromise my integrity and build something fucking stupid because
speaking of that picture, anybody that's watching, if you want to meet Steve Mead, it's almost a guarantee he's going to be at the Sky High Barbecue at least one day. So show up.
No, yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah.
I got to actually, so I've met him before, like long ago at a Knowledge Fest Dallas. No, it was CES, a long time ago.
Yeah,
but
he was there 2019 or
no, it was before that. This would
have
have
like
been
17, probably 16 when he was doing the Fosgate thing when they launched their new subs.
This would have been
okay
because he's there every year.
This would be like 13 or 14, maybe 12. This is
okay forever.
Oh. Yeah. I met him and Scythe Morrison. They were eating somewhere, and I was like, hi. But no, this was great because I got to actually have a conversation with him for like 30, 40 minutes at Sky High, and it was just super chill, dude, man.
Fuck yeah.
Well, boys, I've got food on the stove I've been working on like half today, so I have to jet really soon, but I wanted to get to this one question before I leave.
Do that shit.
And it's for Jeff. So I want to hear what he has to say about this.
So this is a tough one. I saw it earlier. I think that there's a lot of really good brands that have a lot of really nice gear. Like 3 hours ago, I tuned the new Focal, K2Ms. Fantastic drivers. And I'm blessed enough that in my position in Mobile Toys, I get to tune a lot of really awesome vehicles with a lot of different equipment and combinations, and I'm kind of in this perfect melting pot of exposure to stuff, right? Man, I would say I probably wouldn't deviate too far from my current Mazda build, just because of my preferences. I think that there's certain products that are better in one way or another, but I think that ultimately there's too much wrong with cars that you have to get past before the equipment matters, right? There's install issues that are a problem. I would say my favorite brands, if you're like, because I'm not going to list like a perfect build, because again, I think the Mazda's pretty damn good, and there's a lot of cars that are pretty damn good.
He's got a whole Facebook user page of
Yeah,
what
yeah,
he considers the perfect build. So there's that.
But
for sure.
I would say, there's, Focal speakers, JLC7 is another good set. Dyne speakers are fantastic. Those are some of my favorites from the speaker lines. If you pick anything on the upper end of those lines, you'll be pretty happy. Amplifiers, if you really would just want to throw money out the window and watch it blow away, you can do audio wave stuff. If you want to keep it to where normal people that have to think about what their bank account has at the end of the month could maybe afford, Moscone Pros are fantastic amps. JLVXIs are fantastic amps. If you want to talk about subs, I think JL's hard to beat from a daily driving scenario. Sundown subs, if you want to really rip on some stuff.
Or Gately audio subs.
I haven't had any experience with Gately. I haven't had any experience with Gately, so I'm speaking on things that I have experience with.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. For sure.
So, I would say that anything full Moscone Focal, I would say anything full JL. I would say there's some awesome speaker brands like Dyne that you should look at.
I've never even heard of that brand. How do you spell that brand?
DYN, Dyne Audio.
DUYN?
No, DYN.
DYN.
Just DYN. Okay.
DYN, yeah. So Dyne makes some fantastic stuff. And everyone has their own opinions on things. But I think ultimately, disregarding everything, right? I think that one of the reasons the Mazda does what it does, and it's like, oh, it's Class D, oh, it's only JL, it's not, brand A or brand B. Well, in my opinion, you haven't had the SPL mindset of I'm going to make the car better, I'm going to make the install better. You're of the mindset of I'm going to buy my way into winning to a certain degree. Right.
Yeah,
so will better equipment make a difference? Yes, absolutely. It'll make a difference. Is a $500 component set not as good as a $5,000 component set? Yes, absolutely. But if you put a crappy product in a perfect install, it's going to be better than a perfect product into a crappy install. It's the same SQ and SPL all the way around,
100%,
and
yeah.
I think that there is, to this day, I think that we can count on one or two hands from either side of the tree, SPL or SQ, that has done everything perfect on the install, and that the limiting factor is the audio equipment. I think that there's always something to improve on what your install is doing, sound quality or SPL. There's always a loss. There's always an efficiency gain, so
right.
Ideal.
Well, I mean, there's like
know.
an infinite amount of things you can do to a cabin. It's
Yeah.
like you could literally spend your entire life making adjustments to your cabin.
Yeah.
I mean, just like your speaker pod thing for your tweeter that's like this big, right? I mean, maybe this big would have been better, or that big, or a little round edge here, or so. I mean, like it's just like you could go forever in the testing part of your cabin enclosures. But yeah, like you're saying, it's 100% a crappy system or a crappy component and a good system is better.
It's like, people ask, oh, should I have a ZV5? Should I get a ZV6? I'm like, well, ZV6 is better. Yeah, but the sub is probably not your biggest limiting factor currently. You can make more significant gains by doing other things first.
And there's something on that note that I think translates to sound quality and SPL. If you look at the top scoreboards on either sound quality or SPL, you will find the people in order of how much time and effort they've put into their build. In my opinion, there might be an exception here or there. Yeah, and money.
I mean, no, I think you're right. I mean, on the SPL side, like you've got RP; those guys are at the top of the heap. They have put a lot of money, but they have put so much time into testing.
Yeah, way more time than they have money. It's way more time than they have money. I mean, that's
right.
Like
100%.
You could not come in with a wad of money and be like, I'm gonna fucking dominate RP. Be like, motherfucker.
What are you gonna buy from him and pay him
right.
10 years?
What I'm saying is they have
maybe
have the
you get on the
money.
fucking map, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. They have the money in their build, but it wouldn't be what it is without that 30 years of
The time.
knowledge.
Yep.
And then if
killing it,
you go
man.
like
And they're
with
working
somebody
their
like
asses off
Carlos,
down to the
Carlos,
fucking gnat's ass. Yeah.
yeah, and you go like with
And
Carlos, who's a complete hobbyist. He doesn't own a shop. Almost all of his success is in time and in testing, not money. I mean, yes, he has expensive equipment, and over time, it's taken him to this point. But he's gotten to this point because he's put all the time into the build itself. That's where he's gotten out. So, I mean, yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think it all depends on install. I mean, a speaker's a speaker. I mean, yes, there's a lot of stuff that makes speakers better than others, but
yeah,
enclosures,
and
what they
that's
go in.
that's the big thing. That's the whole thing about this, and the reason that because in my opinion, I think Utopia speakers from Focal have some advantages over the speakers that I have in my car, but my car's beaten Utopia cars. Why?
Right.
Because the amount of time that I put into it versus them, in my opinion.
No, you're right. I agree.
Mhm.
All right, boys. Well, I got a jet. Jeff,
you-
thanks so much for jumping on. Drew, Bobby, I'll see you
Yes,
guys
sir.
next week. I'll talk to you probably tomorrow. So,
Later,
everybody,
bro.
thanks for watching. See you, boys.
So I see somebody asking about shallow subs. I don't make shallow subs. I don't know if I ever will. I might at some point, but right now, as far as shallow subs are concerned, I make two different models of 6.5 that'll fit where most any high performance shallow 12 will fit and kick the shit out of any of them. So in every way, shape, and form. So there's that. So yes, shallow 6.5-inch subwoofer, just put it in there fucking sideways like it belongs, firing the right direction, and it'll sound fucking great. So that, yeah.
I'd love to test some of your stuff, Gaylor, or at least have some experience with it one day.
Yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the Alpha 8 is an incredibly versatile sub. They work really good in a sealed box. They work well in a ported box. They're, relatively low FS, light cone. They're nice, tight, close gap. They sound fucking beautiful. And then obviously the Relentless series subwoofers are fucking gnarly woofers, man. You can feed a truckload of power to them. They sound fucking great, and they handle gobs and gobs of power for a fucking endless amount of time. So they're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Jeffrey
Try
is
them
a
in our
fan.
boxes because I developed those things together on purpose and continue to do so with significant testing every opportunity we get. Like you guys, we have an install bay and we do installs, and when we're done with them, we test them and we collect data on output of our enclosures and finding where we can, make improvements and
Mm-hmm.
anytime I figure out anything that can make an improvement, we do that. And we've done that with the woofers a little bit. When we were developing them, we tested fucking everything, and we tested probably a few different versions of each of those woofers before we put them into production. And then over time, the only thing I could think to make them better is design our own baskets and make a couple of very small changes otherwise. So and that's
Steven
the brand
asked,
new version 2s that arrived on Monday. They were the first things that got unloaded into the new Sky High facility.
dude, that place looks huge.
Huge, man. Holy shit.
Can't wait to see it.
John and Mercedes, his daughter, unloaded that whole fucking container of 5,000 Gately 6.5s and 8s. So that and he was like, we were going to go to the gym, and then there was no fucking way. I'm like, yeah, I bet. So yeah.
Jeffrey's a fan of downfiring subwoofers.
So this is where things start to get opinionated. But the long and short of it is, I think regardless of where you fire your subs, the most important part is to think that you're in a box. So if you're ever in a box regardless if it's a rectangle or a square or whatever. If you put the sub directly in the center, it's going to have a cancellation. That's just acoustics, right? So in my opinion, get the sub as far to a corner as you can and use the space to your advantage, right? So in my opinion, you know, a downfire or upfire gets those subs closer to the wall of the vehicle, and I think it helps with some things, just based on what I've seen. So
I'd be curious to see, like, to listen to to actually listen to the difference between, like, I guess it'd be sealed front fire and sealed down fire to see like which one blends better. Because like MTI is basically exclusively sound quality constantly.
Well, if you're talking, you know, if you start putting big power to those shallow subs in one of these trucks, that floor and that carpet and the mat and the fucking often the cone of the subs are just colliding with one another, and it's just slap happy muddy.
And that's where like the difference in like say you're putting salt sixes
yeah,
on
if
some
they're running if they're running 800 1200 watts of the subs, we're gonna be doing pretty good. There's gonna be a lot of efficiency.
Put
it's
a
gonna
salt
load,
6 in there,
resonate. Though. You're running 6,000 fucking watts, even 3,000 watts. You're gonna start having serious flex issues in the vehicle that are gonna sound like shit. I mean, and I've seen many high-end custom downfire builds with like the JL subs, and like you like nice and smooth at low level. When you start trying to jam on that shit, you're like, that sounds fucking atrocious.
You're trying to get it to
like,
where
what am I hearing?
Like,
and I'm like looking at them all. You got fucking rings on your carpet from where your cones are striking this shit. And like, is that what I'm hearing? Is that the and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like shit. And that's
Steven.
Fucking often. So
it would my choice would be depending on the goal of the vehicle. If your goal is you want to put a salt 6, you want to beat down the block, forward firing with a bunch of 8s, because just Bobby's enclosure they're loud and they're awesome. They sound great. But if you want to sound good, man, it's hard to argue with an MTI box. Man, they sound great. Granted, you're not going to put a salt 6 on there. You're not going to flex the doors on the truck.
No,
but it's going to jam.
The advantages here, and I think Bobby would agree with me, is that efficiency at low power. You reach the limit of what the cabin can take with a certain orientation, just like you're talking about the floor, and it's efficiency with low power. If I said, hey Bobby, I've got 1,500 watts, I don't want to stress the electrical, I don't want to do any of that, I think it's a competitive advantage to fire down and load it off of a structure, in that instance.
If you have enough seat lift that you got to have a significant amount of space between the cone of the drivers and the floor of the vehicle, and often have lots of components of the box that are coming down to the floor, like around each driver, almost holding that floor. And if you can bolt that motherfucker in place,
which is I was about to bring up the TRX. They did a TRX downfire, I believe, with faux cal Utopia M's.
Yeah, had three Utopia subs.
They bolted the enclosure down to the truck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is a huge advantage.
It was a sealed enclosure, over spec'd, so it had a lower Q. The drivers are super reactive anyways. The cones are paper light. I mean, it's super, super light. And
$1,500 a sub, they better be.
Yeah, and so then the inside of the box was treated, but I think the most important part was it was braced to all hell. There's no acrylics, no nothing. It's just as strong and as good sounding as we could make a box. And then it was bolted down. And I've heard a lot of bass. It was the second best bass I've ever heard in my life, from just like a absolute jackhammer levels of loud. As far as SQ goes, it's like 135, 140 dB. But just on point, but pinpoint accuracy. I mean, it would do everything. It was awesome.
I would not downfire SA12.
No.
I'd get you some Gately Relentless subs and a Gately box. Because there's just nowhere. There's just no way around. Like, if you have the budget for it, a Gately box with Gately subs is going to outperform basically anything else you can do, because he has so much experience with it, especially if output is the goal. He's on version 1 million.
And it sounds fucking beautiful. Now, if you're an SQ competitor and you're like, fucking A, bro, 135, and it sounds beautiful doing it, then maybe there's a really nice high-end solid downfire build bolted to your shit with plenty of space between the drivers and the floor, and you'd be doing pretty good. But
yeah, and all of the MTI
yeah.
enclosures have enough space for the cone, by the way. So
TW5,
well,
TW3s.
I've seen the TW3s do pretty well in a couple of applications, and the TW5s I've always heard were pretty disappointing. But obviously, Jeff's got a ton of experience with these things.
Yeah, I'll go opposite of you, Bobby, respectfully, of course. But
no, it's all good.
So TW3s, I think, get a little bit louder. Just, if you had the same amount of cone area, if you could somehow magically make the piston area exactly the same, I think TW3s get a little bit louder. TW5s play lower and smoother, in my opinion. And when I'm tuning to my target curve, so think back to the class with Mark Eldridge. When I'm tuning to my target curve, a TW5 requires a lot less work than a TW3. The biggest thing with a TW3 that I would say is an advantage, flexibility. You can put it in just about anything and it'll do the thing. TW5's very, very sensitive suspension. You have to be very careful with what you do in the box.
I'm gonna go through some of the starred comments. This is when you were talking. We were going over your system and your Mazda. I said, let's see what else we got. Oh, Steven asked about the barrier. Do well for the engine rear well. Yeah, so that's actually what Nick did. I think he did a video or a photo gallery of deadening wheel wells with barrier and 45.
And on that note, on the TRX, the same TRX we were just talking about, the client actually sent it back for additional sound treatments. He wanted his 700 horsepower truck to be like a Mercedes or a BMW. So it's like, cool, how do I do this? And we're like, cool, this is how you do it. So we actually, applied Resonix barrier through firewall to back glass, just the whole, every square inch of it, up the B pillars, up the C pillars, and then dropped the wheel wells, put fiber mat in there and deadener on it, like the CLD deadener, bolted it back up. And I swear to you, on my life, 70 miles an hour on my Apple Watch had 63 dB of road noise.
I wonder if it would be awesome to see the difference. And you go, here it is, and it's at fucking 91, and now it's at 63. That's pretty cool.
If you took your foot off the accelerator, because there was a little bit of engine drone from 700 horsepower and all that stuff. If you took your foot off the accelerator, you're cruising at 70, 75, just outside of MTI. Big old knobby tires, the whole 9 yards. I was whispering to my buddy next to me. It was quiet.
That's pretty
Can't
cool.
whisper in my truck, tell you that right now. So yeah, you put the rest, you put barrier over traditional deadener.
That's pretty cool. So you could do the sundown stuff on a vehicle with a bunch of fucking output and rigid, do all the rigidity like I did in that fucking Jeep and I did in the Prospector, and then also
barrier
add
over
this, and that would eliminate road noise. Would it have in your experience, Jeff? Would it help with overall deadening? I mean, it has to help a little bit, right? Overall deadening in the vehicle, make it sound a little smoother, the audio system, or just overall better because there's less road and engine noise type of thing. Well, not engine noise, but
the latter sound. For sure. Yeah, the latter. It's just lower noise floor. So, I haven't tested it in a big SPL build, but I would imagine some of them aren't the quietest driving down the road. So it might make it a little bit more pleasant if you're driving it. The biggest thing, because a lot of these SPL builds, they're not jamming 165s the whole way to the show. They're riding, just whatever they're listening to.
I'm all we're fucking chooching, man. And I'm like, I fucking full tilted the Raiden all the fucking way to Reno and all the way back home after I demoed all
People
weekend.
are like, oh, let me hear it. Bobby's like, we gotta let the batteries recharge. I haven't stopped. And the struggle had one alternator or something. So he's like, I need to recharge.
They just were now it's got a couple of big brand X's, and we put the retro 56s in it in the last event that it attended. Man, it was all good. I could just fucking play and play and play. Well, Corey, you blew your subwoofers. You should throw them away and buy new ones, and don't blow up the next set.
Matt Mergenthal may have an answer of what you can do with those.
I believe W3s are reconable. I believe so. It's actually on the
Really?
JL's website. You can, yeah. So you
Wow.
send them back to JL, you pay shipping, and then they'll send you brand new ones.
So Corey is actually the person who created the dual alternator bracket for nitros and the Dodge 3.7 liter motors.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. So I have a couple more
Yeah.
Skar things. There you go.
Yeah.
This
So
was talking about
Dan,
competition earlier.
if anyone doesn't know, Dan Merritt is the one of the influences in my SQ, more recent SQ success. And his Challenger was an awesome 2-seat car. That one's actually the best sounding bass I've ever heard, the TRX being the second. And as good as my car is today, in the driver's seat, his car sounded about that good from both front seats. It was freaking astonishing. It would play down to the depths of hell as far as bass. It just never ran out of juice.
Dan is an old school SPL competitor. He competed on the Kicker competition group back in the day. So he's an old SPL guy too.
And so now his new car is close to being done. It'll be done after Aggieland. And we're hoping
I was hoping to hear it, dude.
No, we pushed it back, but let's put it this way. We tossed a couple speakers just on a baffle. We put microfiber towels around it. We did tape measure time alignment in VXI. We had set up a VXI just on my test bench, and we sat in the driver's seat, and I literally just got out of the car and I was like, "F you, Dan. F you." That's what
has Dan posted
just him this aim him like this, and he's got it that good. That's the that's what you're describing.
The car is going to be ignorant.
Like what's going to be in it?
There's a couple things that I can't talk about. It's going to have exclusively audio wave amplifiers, which are those super crazy expensive ones I mentioned earlier. It's a full MTI build by one of our badass fabricators, Phil Cantu, and he's going to have influences from Dan Merritt, James Davidson, and probably a little bit of guidance from me as far as install books go. Because basically this car is going to go after the big Triple Crown again. The car's already won 2 big Triple Crowns before, got taken down, rebuilt, and hopefully comes out the gate, hurting some feelings here.
So this is a post that I put up a while ago. This is an audio wave amp.
And what does that cost?
These are all the 3 audio wave amps in Dan's car will retail about $40,000 to $45,000.
How many of those things? There's like one guy is like,
3 amps.
I'm gonna make another one, and like one a month, and he's like, this is fun.
They're hand built in Britain, I think.
So I don't know enough to talk about them too deeply, but all of the components are hand selected, they're hand built, and they are astonishing amplifiers. Again, going back to my earlier thing about the equipment being so far down the totem pole, you've got bigger things to fix. But when you get to cars past my car, if you kind of picture my car as like the gatekeeper, there are plenty of cars past mine. When you get to those cars, then equipment starts to matter. So Dan kind of took the route of, we're just gonna do the damn thing,
Yeah, he's doing the have a dream and take it all the way. The epitome of everything, huh? That's exciting.
It's gonna be pretty silly.
Really cool.
It's gonna be pretty silly.
Yeah.
And
so, I'm excited to hear it. So this was a question whenever we were showing your pillars. Do you have any issues with the vehicle inspection?
No, the car's never failed an inspection. I've never had to tip a guy. I've never had to go to the other gas station.
I just don't get inspections.
No. You could just be like Drew. The
Louisiana roads aren't nice enough for me to. My trucks are nicer than Louisiana roads are, so it's fine.
If you see the pillars in person, they're way less intrusive than you think. So
I believe it. I absolutely. What's a broad dip?
Broad dip.
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
What we're talking about. Explain what a broad dip is.
Yeah,
You've
but
managed to confuse all three of us.
Yeah, everybody's
Well-
Brax DSP.
Brax DSP. No, it will have a Moscone Aerospace 8 to 12. So, basically that car though,
Broad
we're
dip.
excited
That
because
is a really
broad dip.
fun typo. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
We have broad dip. That car will be built to the 9, and we're going to be doing more speaker testing. Even though I got in and I was like, this is dumb. Once we get the dash around it and we build this whole custom dash,
it's doing a full dash build.
10-inch sub. It's an extreme vehicle for SQ basically, and
Right. What's the base vehicle?
It's a Challenger. I think it's a 2014 Challenger or 2012 Challenger, one of the two. But the Challenger, it's a full dash build. Can't talk about the speakers yet, but I will tell you it will have a front and a rear sub. So it will have a front 10 and a rear 18.
Full dash
sub.
build.
Full dash build. Yeah. So, and yeah, that's the old version of the Civic. There's been like 5 versions of the Civic. So, if you ever get to hear the Civic, I do recommend it.
Oh yeah. And the Civic is pretty much the epitome of everything, right? It is.
The Civic is one of the
fucking most badass thing ever.
There's probably less than 10 cars that I could say are because again, ordering them is just an insult to the car, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's not like SPL where you can go, he's a 170 and he's a 171. You can't. They all do something different. They're all unique. But I could say unequivocally, the Civic is a top 10 car ever to be built. It is freaking fantastic.
This is his current rendition.
Yeah. It doesn't get quite as rowdy as my car can get, because I really like to lay into it. But so does Chris, and it gets plenty loud in there. I mean, you can expect 110 dB full freaking rip, and to put it in perspective, it's not 110 dB of just like, 110 dB. It's like 110
dB of like mids and highs.
Yeah, you can't yell at the person next to you kind of loud. So it's
there's no one next to you.
Pretty cool in there. Yeah, no, if there was.
Single seat.
If someone's on your lap, you have to scream in their ear. But
it's
this car.
So I got to hear it.
Stage,
Aggie Light again. That's what I was about to talk about. The stage, it doesn't sound like a car anymore. It no longer sounds like a car. So if you get into it thinking, okay, how does a good car sound? This is going to confuse you because it's not what it sounds like.
This ain't it. Cars sound like cars up until you get the ridiculously extreme class cars. Like the Civic, like Dan Merritt's next car. Those will sound beyond car. Okay. My car sounds like a car. It sounds like a really good car, but it's still a car. That Civic, for instance, there's like 15 feet of depth, and the stage is 5 feet tall. I mean, it's huge. You're basically, it feels like you're in almost an auditorium, but with like listening room levels of precision. It's really cool.
It feels like you could park my truck between you and the like where the person's singing. It feels so weird. And then it's very, very dark tint all around to help eliminate more like sense, to get rid of one of those senses, get rid of the.
It's
sight.
like sensory deprivation, except for the audio system.
Yep.
You should make it super dark in there too. Like all those lights turn all off and it's just dark and it wants you to close your eyes and just be in there.
Oh, it is.
You're all feeling around looking for people and shit. It'd be really cool.
I'm trying to find
it's not quite that dark, but it's close.
Well, I mean, I'm exaggerating. Yeah. But that's really cool. I need to experience some of these cars. I really do.
Yeah, you come to Aggie Land, man.
You'll probably you'll probably think the Civic is super cool. Not rubbing the Mazda's stuff, but I think you'll like the Mazda better. It's a little bit more rowdy. It'll be happier doing loud things.
Okay.
So
I'm trying to find a photo of the inside the Civic lit up because it looks a lot different when it's lit up. And I think
it's like a spaceship.
And like I could be wrong, but I think some of the lighting in there is in there simply to make it feel bigger. because like none of the lighting, it's all diffused. None of it is like bright. It looks like it's making everything bigger.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of where I have photos of this thing.
I see one comment says, where can we go to hear a car like this? You can go to Aggieland, which is on April 1st this year in a few weeks. You can go to SQ Finals. There's a couple really big SQ shows out in California. Brian Mitchell hosts some at his shop, and I know there's a big SQ scene out there. There's a lot of really good sounding cars, and I think both ends of the industry, SQ and SPL, could learn something from each other. And I think everyone kind of needs to give the other a chance. Maybe the SQ guys don't want to get into a 165, but they can at least stand next to it and go, damn, that's impressive.
I mean, when I brought the Tahoe to Aggie Light, all SQ guys were checking it out, man. They loved to see it. They thought it was a hoot.
Oh, there was every 10 minutes, Drew was leaving again in the Tahoe because he's trying not to be disrespectful and play. There's cars getting judged, so he didn't want to play the Tahoe like next to the cars getting judged. It would hurt their scores by a lot.
So you do it the same way when you give somebody a demo in your neighborhood. You got to let's drive to the liquor store.
Yeah. We gotta leave the neighborhood for a minute.
Yeah. No, the whole day. I mean, Bobby, the whole day, I'm sitting there giving demos and doing judging and doing all this other stuff. And it's like, oh, where'd you go? Oh, the Tahoe's gone. Okay. He probably on all these are SQ guys. There's like one SPL guy that showed up. One of my buddies from Houston showed up. Everyone else was an SQ guy, and they were just like, "This is cool. Can I listen to it?" And he was doing this little U-turn thing, all day. So I thought it was really cool.
Get a mile away, light it off, give him a song or 3 parts of a song worth of the business, turn it back down before he makes it back, and it's like that's about a 1/10 of what a normal demo would be if we were at an event where I could just have this thing sitting there chooching. But it's also kind of nice when you do a demo like that. You get all the voltage, all the cooling, everything's cozy and comfortable, and like you're driving along and you're giving somebody the business of 160 plus. You're going down the street and people are like, "How do you drive with it like that?" And you're like,
"Yep, like oh man, it's fine."
I just do.
This was the show where I started losing. I lost a mirror off the Tahoe for the first time. I was like, no, not the mirror.
Yeah. So the Civic has light highlights around everything, the doors and the back areas around the amps, and then there's a button in the floor that shuts them all off. When you're in there, it's not lit up.
And that. Is it a C10 like Suburban with the flames that you guys just did? Holy fuck. That shit is amazing. Like the one with the flames, right? Which, oh my God. I was just like, oh dude. And your guy, the vision that I'm pretty sure it's mostly Chris, but Chris and the guys that are doing the aesthetic of those interiors, it's the fucking best, man. They're amazing. It's so beautiful. I'm like, holy shit, this is just fucking beautiful. And the way the panels fit together, and there's not any fucking fasteners, and there's no gappy weird shit or wrinkly fucked up, and it's not bulgy and bulbous and man, it's super sexy shit, man. I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing with those interiors. It's fucking outstanding.
I'm pulling up some pictures of it right now. I still haven't put a mirror back on there. I have mirrors. I just haven't put them on yet.
There's 5 guys that do interior work and fabrication at Mobile Toys. There's Chris Pate. I'll tell you about this thing in a second. But there's Chris Pate, Justin Cush, Phil Cantu, Brian Perez, and James Davidson. We saw him earlier on the stream. All of those are the designers at MTI, and they all have creative visions that peasants like myself can't understand. I mean, they just do this. They look at something like this. I call this one the Hot Wheels truck. It's actually named Flat Broke. It's a really, really cool chopped up, I think it's a 59 or something Suburban, I think. But it's built to the 9. and we did a full interior in it. So everything except the dash is done. Back doors, quarter panels, headliner, floor, all those aluminum inlays are all, that was Chris's idea. The whole console. It's got an audio system in there too. It's got a full 3-way kit with 2 8-inch subs. I mean, it's a really, really cool car, and at Lone Star it won Best Interior. It's a really, really cool one.
No surprise at all, man. That thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's fucking outstanding.
Is that another Best of Show at Lone Star Throwdown?
Yeah, that was Best of Show. So that's back-to-back Best of Shows. This one was Lolita. It's the unibody C10 that's pictured right there. So at one point in its life, it was a Blazer, and it's been heavily modified, as you can tell. Interior also done. So the whole floor, the console, the back walls, the seats inlay into the floor and the back wall. Kick panel speakers, console dash. I mean, that's a pimped out C10 interior. We can do basic ones, and then we can do ones like that.
Dude, that's insane.
So
yeah, that's a sexy bitch.
But all of these guys just they just come up with these designs in their head, and I don't know how they do it.
What's in
they
there?
Just look at something. It's basically like tools and stuff. Hey, I want tools and I want a storage. How do I store that? Like, okay, cool. This is how I do it.
Where's the TRX pictures at?
TRX is probably a little bit lower than that. It's below. That's the Super Snake. It's below that.
Oh, hold on. Oh, look at the new body.
Yeah, so that was another full interior that was built by Brian Perez. There's the TRX pictures, by the way. So that one was a cat eye single cab, and 10W7 and a really cool console, dual 6.5 mid bass, dual tweeter setup in the pillar. A lot of these builds are just the brainchild of what these. These guys are awesome. What they come up with. This is the fabled TRX that I was talking about. So we did this one. It was all Focal Mosconi build. Utopia speakers, Mosconi Pro amps.
Good Lord.
It was sound treated to my spec. Every single amplifier was a Mosconi Pro except for one, because I physically couldn't fit it. The customer was like, "Hey, can you fit more?" And I said, "No." I had to
no, bro, we're out of space, homie.
So 100% fill 3D printed adapters that were molded into the door. 3 layers of sound treatment, and then sprayed on sound treatment, and then black hole tiles. I mean, these doors were dead. So this thing was a really, really cool sounding truck. It was louder than my car. It had really, really huge imaging and staging.
Are those rear fill Utopia?
Those are rear fill Utopias, yeah.
Well, that's disrespectful.
Every single speaker.
How much are those?
Yeah. Every single speaker was a Utopia except for the rear 6.5s, because they don't make a Utopia coaxial.
How much are these? These threes.
Don't
Retail.
have that price memorized. I don't have that price memorized top of my head.
No,
I know the three-way set, the 6.3 tweet set, if you bought a pair, is about $5,300. So
we're gonna call it $1,000 a speaker. Sounds good. So that's $2,000 for the 3-inch rear fills. I hate it here, bro.
The TRX is really cool. But our bread and butter is our behind the seat and under the seat stuff. The TRX took some time. It was fitting 30 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag, just like the stuff that you do all the time, Bobby, I'm sure, with all these big, crazy loud builds.
Yeah, some of it, like we're squeezing a Gately 6K or a Sundown Salt 6K along with a small 4-channel and a 6-channel, and you're like, holy shit! Like, we can fit
where
all
do you
these
fit it all?
amps, and then with like And then like the guys are like, all right, it's there. And then Colt's like, I gotta get 3 1/0s or 6 1/0s into the end of this amp over here. And it's like, oh, how are you gonna do that? And he's like, I don't know yet, man. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
like I'm gonna sort it
this is
out.
Twisted.
Good.
Twisted was a really cool one. So that was another really, really awesome one.
MTI makes enclosures for most major trucks, but they specialize in full.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if he was talking about truck manufacturers or if he was talking about like other companies that we send our boxes to and are like authorized resellers, basically.
I figured he meant like what brand, like the trucks.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
I thought he meant like retailers or like manufacturers or something like that is what I was thinking, but I don't know.
Hey, look, it's the car that I got beat by at IE Light and doing demos. Oh, look, he has $1,000 piece speakers too.
So the biggest thing on this one, it's never sounded good. It's been a gremlin in that car, and I found out why because I max tuned it, and I actually had to use 7 all-pass filters on a mid-range to make it do what it needs to do.
Holy fuck!
Scraping the coast
on a single mid-range. So after I was done tuning it, it was on. I mean, it was the best the car's ever sounded.
It just
by
had
a
some
lot.
wild ass like. What is the biggest culprit? Typically, it's just wild ass reflections, and you can fix them a bit with. Well, you can fix them quite a bit with a whole bunch of all pass filters, huh?
No, our roads are ass, bro.
So
our roads are horrible.
Just like I was saying earlier, you can't fix it. You can make it not appear broken, if that makes sense.
So he was talking about what subs y'all make enclosures for.
So Focal purchases enclosures directly from us and preloads their enclosures with their own subs, basically. They're Focal branded enclosures built by MTI, and then everything else, we don't have any contracts with other people. We've authorized dealers that sell MTI boxes, and then the rest is just whatever you want to put in there, as long as it fits and fits the airspace and all that stuff, and the world's your oyster. So, but I think it's
for everything.
I think it's cool that you've guys like Bobby that make these beautiful freaking enclosures. And they're completely different from MTI enclosures. I mean, they are not the same customer most of the time, but both are just totally, built to the nine. Every time I see something Bobby posts, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, how does he do that? That's insane.
Okay, John said, don't ignore his question.
So do you run optical in your VXIs? How come this guy says he doesn't like running optical? Okay, so if I had my choice, I would run RCAs only. The way that VXIs are set up, and because I need loopbacks and things to make my car work the way that it does, I have to use opticals. In my opinion, RCAs you can push to the limit of clipping and distortion. If you go past that, you put your tiny toe past the clipping point of distortion, it doesn't sound terrible. Some people actually like the sound of a little bit more harmonic distortion in their
That's
build.
Why class AB is class A and AB are so. That's why people are like, oh, they're amazing because they sound warm. It's distortion, buddy.
Yeah, I
like that shit. That's why I made my big 4-channel at class AB. I was like, I don't know, man. I really like that one the most. I was like, you're like, man, it's kind of old and it's this. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It's a big ass amp and you're trying to put them behind the seat of a truck. I don't care. I'm going to fit them. I don't know. That's what I want. That's what I started with. So, yeah.
Yeah. And so the way that I would describe it is optical and class D are great, except for when you push them to the absolute limit. On subs, class D is fine, but on tweeters, they'll start making really, really funny noises. And optical is the same way. If you clip an optical, it is instant square wave. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. It's terrible. RCA, there's that little bit of extra forgiveness. The customer can go, 30 was fine, but let's go to 32. And, just give a little love nudge. So to answer your question, John, when I have my choice, I go RCA directly in. The install calls for it. I will do an optical loopback, and I'll either understand that limitation myself, like the Mazda has, or I'll explain that to the customer. Hey, just so you're aware, you have optical. If you clip these things, it will sound nasty. You'll know when it clips. Versus RCA, I'll be like, oh, it kind of sounds a little bit better to me. Oh, that's clipping, but glad you like it.
So a lot of people like a lot of clipping, and that's one of those things. I mean, you think you got a lot of guys that are like happy to have a clip a little bit. I get a lot of guys that are like, what? And I'm like, you're at 20%. Like you are Captain Square Wave. That sounds like shit. You're crackling and making fucked up noise. That's bad. And like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and retune your vehicle so that you can be this abusive. And and all of a sudden all the crossovers change and everything shifts up a little bit. And I'm like, all right, there it is. It's way fucking louder. Doesn't sound quite as pretty, but you can just rail that fucking knob. And I'm like, look, man. If you start cooking shit in here, it's your fucking fault. Like you are a fucking knob turner, and do not mess with any of the dialy-doos on these amplifiers or let your buddy tune. Like, I mean, a while back we had a customer call us up and he's like, I need to do subwoofer and my car's tune is all fucked up. I'm like, you paid us 4 hours of labor to tune your DSP. What's going on? And he's like, yeah, my brother-in-law, he's 17. He said that I needed more mid bass, and he got his computer and he got into the DSP. And I was like, oh, and he managed to delete our tune. And I'm like, we had it on 1 and 2. He's like, yeah, I was aware of that. I was there when you guys were tuning the car. We had this whole conversation. Hey, he made 4 different tunes for me. All of them sound like shit. And then I blew up my sub. So and that's the kind of shit that we deal with, where like when Colt and Tyson tuned the Prospector, the initial tune at like pretty loud was fucking beautiful. I mean, it was outstanding. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn this a little louder. All right, we got to make some adjustments. And I started changing shit. And then I was like, okay, look, at, 3 clicks from the top, this thing needs to be jamming, because he for sure is going to go the rest of the way. And I'm going to tell him.
But he's still going to do it.
He's still going to do it. But if you were to have it 10 clicks from the top, we'd be like shipping speakers to Hawaii, and he'd be pretty bummed out, and it'd be our fault because we know how abusive some of these customers are going to be. They're just having too much. I mean, I've done it. I've been it myself. I like my audio system to be so loud that no matter how loud I'm screaming Tool, listening to the music, belting that shit out as loud as I can, I don't want to hear me. I sound like shit. I want to be able to yell as loud as I can and fucking I'm rocking out, I'm sweating, I'm getting dizzy and shit. And I don't want to hear me. I don't want to fucking hear me. And if it takes 15 fucking % distortion, I might get there as my ears fatigue in that drive. So yeah, that's a thing. And that's what people are like. And I haven't, well, I suppose I have experienced this. Is one of those, like, here I am learning something where I'm like, geez, this thing really just kind of has a limit where when it starts to fucking distort, it really kind of goes all to shit. And I noticed that a bit with a few installs, and my mind is going back and I'm like, those that were more sensitive were the optical signal builds that we've done. And a lot of times I like optical signal because it you're a lot less likely to get any fucking engine alternator noise.
Mm-hmm.
On the Zen A2B, optical RCA.
So same answer, and Bobby hit exactly the point. Opticals run within their limit. Let's call this the limit. Opticals run within their limit are perfectly fantastic. But the moment you reach the limit, failure happens. Sounds bad, all of those things. The pros are no noises. But if I have my choice, if there's no noise in the system and I can run an RCA, I'm running an RCA. If the system has noise, we ran an RCA, we can't get rid of the noise, we've tried for 2 or 3 hours, let's toss an optical in, and we'll take our medicine.
More often than not, you're good, right?
Yeah,
okay.
the optical fixes it, but you just have that limit. You have to keep in mind what the limit of optical
that fucking
is.
limit. Okay, I like that. So now when we put in a Zen module, I'm gonna be like, all right, let's run an RCA cable, and let's fire this thing up and see what we get. And if we're having a noise issue, and well, like you were saying, 2 or 3 hours, I'll go, all right, guys, this is how long you got to troubleshoot that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for you, Jeff. When you guys experience something like that, you're in the middle of doing an install, and it's a brand new Ford truck, Chevy truck, Dodge, whatever, and you guys are tracking your hours on doing the install. When you hit something weird like that, are you're like, oh, my guys worked 5 hours troubleshooting engine noise. Do you fucking bill the customer for all that? Or do you go,
no.
we're going to eat some hours on this? I mean, how do you deal with that? Because it's like, that's a tough one, right? You're like, I told the customer what gear to buy. I'm partially responsible for this. You know what I mean? It's a really tough choice to make, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a very tough choice to make. And, we're passionate about the end result, as a lot of the good shops are. It's yes, the money is important. Yes, we all need jobs, right? But part of the reason that we're successful at this is because we are passionate about the end result. We want it to sound good. We want you to be as excited about it as we are at the end of the day. And so we've troubleshooted plenty of that stuff, and it's not 5 hours. I would, Chris would not let it go 5 hours. I wouldn't let it go 5 hours. The bay manager wouldn't let it go 5 hours. There's 3 people all going, no, you're not doing that. You've got about 30 minutes to an hour, very process of elimination kind of style. If it's not this, it's this. If it's not this, it's this. If you take out this, this happens. If you put this in, this happens very, very quickly. And then we make a decision. Okay, cool. What is the way to get us proud of this install within, the time frame that we need to be in to deliver it to the customer on time, to make sure we're profitable, to make sure that this thing is bulletproof, so, because I mean it when I say it. The next time I see you, this is me talking to a customer. The next time I see you, if I did my job right and all the guys did their job right, and we're all seeing eye to eye here, the next time I see you is for your next truck, your upgrade, your whatever it is. It's a smile. The next time I see you, if it's a frown.
I mean, or they're like, remember when you told me that I shouldn't go past this, and I might melt. I did that. You're right. Can you do that and then make it so that I can't do that anymore? Or they're like, can you find me some tweeters that won't do that, and I will try not to do that to them either? Or you have to educate them. You have to train them to operate their audio systems and things of that nature. But I mean, like a really good example is, and I don't know if you guys have experience with this, it's kind of a known engine noise monster, is the older like 20 or the 2011 12 Camaros. They fucking make engine noise.
I didn't know that.
And I did an audio system on my buddy's car, and like we did like everything we could think of. We're putting in DSPs, we're changing shit, we had an aftermarket head unit, but we weren't sure if it was something caused by the aftermarket kit that we put in. We had it where it made no noise at all if I had like a 20-foot RCA cable and I stood about 4 feet away from the car with it from the head unit out the thing.
Perfect.
And it was like, that shit's perfect. We had closed up. He's like, perfect. I walked the RCA cable close to the car, and it's like, wee, and it was a fucking nightmare. We were screwing with that thing for, I don't know, like 9 hours before we got it to where it was like pretty goddamn good, but it's still fucking there. And
Yeah.
and it's like, we're gonna have to come back to this at some point. I'm gonna do some research. I'm gonna talk to some colleagues, and we searched a bunch of shit online, and there's just guys in groups going, I haven't figured out how to make this thing not make engine noise. I'm just going to take the audio system out of it and like put it back to stock. There's guys like, hey man, when you put it back to stock, you're going to find that it has engine noise stock. Like, it's fucking in there already. Another vehicle that I saw that had engine noise stock from the factory, like literally from the factory, was a Volkswagen with the Fender audio system. Now, for a factory audio system, that thing sounds fucking awesome. But I was driving down the road, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat of my buddy's car, and we're driving along, and I'm like, your car makes engine noise. And he's like, yeah. And I'm all, what'd you do to it? And he's like, it's stock. It's been this way since I drove it off the lot. I'm like,
I'd be
how
beside
the fuck
myself.
I'm like, how the fuck did you get off the lot with this thing doing it? When we put an audio system in it, it wanted to do it no matter what we fucking did. So that being the case, we ended up installing a DSP, and then he would just, broadcast straight to his DSP, and then it was fucking beautiful. So anyway, like vehicles like that, where you're fighting, a fight with this damn thing. Now, I see, like, the Tweak has the balanced inputs and stuff. Would that be a way? I mean, but head units don't have balanced inputs going out of them. Be really bitching if they did.
I mean, there's a bunch of different ways to fight noise. My favorite thing is, look, unless it's a aftermarket head unit, chances are you're not going to get great signal. There's a few exceptions. You got the Zen, you've got a few of the Amp Pro pieces, but there's not a Zen and an Amp Pro. Yeah, they have either optical out or RCA out, but the main thing is they're de-equalized, they're stereo, perfect signal, right? Those are great. When your vehicle doesn't have those, you either do what I did in the Mazda, you take a cutting tool to it and you put a head unit in it, or, if you're not willing to cut up stuff, my favorite thing is just to run a Moscone AMAS and direct in. It's direct high-res Bluetooth in, and you make a perfect preset off that. You make the factory one as good as you can make it, whatever that looks like. Hey, if you're listening at 10% volume, you're listening to an audiobook, you're listening to NPR or something, use your factory radio. You're on a phone call, use your factory radio, whatever. If you're jamming out and you want an audiophile experience, dirty in, dirty out. It's just like SPL. It's the same thing repeated over and over. Direct in.
Yep.
Just feed something direct into the DSP, whether that's a streamer, whether that's, whatever it is, just direct in, saves you a lot of time and hassle. And then after you've rested, had a meal, calmed down from being frustrated at your OEM audio system, then you can come back and try and make that better and go, okay, if I fail, I still have the good sounding direct in.
Right, right. Yeah, I can do pretty damn good here or great there, but still never going to be as good as when you go direct, right? Well, cool. So it's one, alleviate whatever you're dealing with if you have engine noise and you have a vehicle that's fighting you. And I suppose, and like you were just saying, you're like, you're fucking half an hour into this battle, and you haven't figured out a solution. You go, hey, this is how we're going to fix this issue. I mean, even in that Camaro, that thing does have an aftermarket head unit. Like, we installed an aftermarket head unit in this fucking car. And that thing still, no matter what the fuck we did, it wanted to make noise. So our next step, I suppose, is let's get him a DSP and go direct in. So maybe I should use the Moscone because it has such a good input, huh? That's a good option.
The Moscone AMAS is a great one. If you're using a Helix DSP, it's got a direct in streamer. I think the Moscone is a little easier to pair to. If you're just like, hey, all of that costs money and I'm trying to ball on a budget, dude, JL MBTRX is for $50. You can't go wrong. I mean, is it going to be like world-ending sound quality? No, they're not designed to be. They're designed to be a very affordable direct in.
And that's where you get back to where, like, does the signal matter? Absolutely. But is your system good enough for the signal to matter?
Well, in this
Yeah, so,
application,
like,
he's got some pretty nice stuff. He's got, all aftermarket. He's got DD amps and he's a kicker dude. So he's got a bunch of nice kicker components and a shitload of sound deadening. So maybe, and I'll go, hey, my buddy's Jason, and I'll be like, Jason, you got a choice. We can spend, fucking
yeah,
$600 over here or $1,500 over there, and he's more than financially capable. He's a really frugal guy. He likes to be pretty smart with his money, and I just got to educate him on what his options are and go, look, we're gonna make this thing doesn't make any fucking funny noise, man. This is what it takes. So
yeah,
Hell
no, if you can swing it, an AMAS is awesome. But having 30 AMASs in the system, or 30 AMASs in your shop is an expensive endeavor. So you have, 1 or 2 AMASs, or you custom order them as needed, and you keep 10 or 15 MBTRXs just laying around. And what does that cost you? When you're a shop, 10 or 15 MBTRXs is nothing to lay around. So if it collects a little dust waiting on the
does the Helix Bluetooth do LDAC or like the super high res Bluetooth formats?
Yes. And I've used it. It sounds great. It's a little bit hard to connect to. I'm a very simplicity kind of guy. It's got to be sync right to it, and then I like it. And MBTRX and AMAS both do that for me. The worst thing is like, oh, this MBTRX isn't working. Who's paired to this thing? Because if it's not paired, then it's not going to show up. But that's the only thing that you'll find, and you'd have to shout out to the shop, who paired to this? And I'm like, oh yeah, no, my bad. And then it pops right up.
I use my radio will let me stream LDAC Bluetooth to it, and I'll do it sometimes just because all my music services that are on my phone are also on my iPad that's hardwired to the head unit via USB. So I avoid it when I can, but it sounds fine streaming Bluetooth these days.
Yeah,
like even in the truck where it is high resolution enough to where you can hear the difference in. Like if I play one track via Bluetooth and then one track, the same track via plugged in USB of the high res FLAC file, you can hear the difference in the truck.
Yeah. But
is it something that you would hear in a normal vehicle? Probably not.
Let's put it this way, Drew. All of our hot rods, they have a direct in most likely. If they don't have a head unit, if the customer's like, hey, I want a clean, slicked out hot rod, like no screens, none of that stuff. I want it to look period correct. I want it all behind nice grills and all that stuff. Cool. Do you want an MBTRX or an AMAS? And most of the time it's, I've already put X amount of thousands of dollars into this. And, most of those hot rod guys aren't super audiophile guys. So it's like, cool, MBTRX it is. Let's pop that in. Good to go.
Right. And it's fucking $60-$80. So if somewhere down the road they wanted to make a $1,200 or $1,500 upgrade to that thing and put the DSP in, then cool.
They're good to go.
And that's that.
Yeah.
I tell a lot of customers, listen, man, the more fun you have with this thing now, the more you're going to want to do more stuff to it, So when guys are kind of like, well, I really want to do all the highs and mids too, but I don't want to put that much into it. I'm like, yeah, I say we focus on your subsystem now. And then we circle back and replace all this shit later, because you're gonna wish, if you put $1,300 into all your highs and mids and you don't bother to have us do all the sound deadening and all the stuff, man, you're gonna feel like you left it undone. And so if we start with just the subsystem, and then you circle back in 3 or 6 months and we tear into these doors, and I would say spending $300 on each door with material and time is way better than buying more expensive speakers. And, trying to educate them on what it takes for it to sound its absolute best within a reasonable budget, So.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, guys, we've been on here almost 3 hours. We can,
Sure have. I'm gonna go and have some dinner, and I'm gonna get my ass to bed. I got a shitload of work to do tomorrow. I got trucks to build.
Yeah, man.
Slam Halen. I'm hoping the guys get Slam Halen playing tomorrow, and if they do,
that'd be sick.
post a bunch of pictures and videos and do the whole break the internet. Yeah. Yeah, I wish you guys were here. We could give a big tongue kiss. And
you got to kiss the homies goodnight, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me on, man. It was a ton of fun, and just keep on
Jeff,
doing
we
what you
learned
do.
a lot of stuff from you, man. We really appreciate you and admire all your hard work, man. It's inspiring, man. I mean, when we were like Team B2 buddies, we were in the group, and you were posting pictures in that group. You remember I was in there with you, and
Yeah.
it was cool seeing your build and come together, and you're competing and you're kicking ass. I'm like, this is fucking awesome, and seeing what you're doing over there with the guys at MTI, man. It's really cool shit, man.
Hey,
You guys
John,
are awesome.
you're you said you're an hour and a half north of Sacramento. I'm gonna be in Sacramento, bro. We could trade out for some speakers.
Yeah,
I know you got some
You
speakers.
can come to Gately Audio, and we can be tuning, and we can remote tune Jeff or Drew on my Macs at my shop, and that way it can be fun for everybody.
Yeah,
John has some speakers. He messaged me about getting them like a week or two ago, and I'm like, I don't know. I messaged him last night. I'm like, all right, bro, they're on my ass about buying these speakers.
Yeah,
these
so
damn eights.
The brief version of that is if you get an MTI system, and I've done the system before, it comes preloaded with a tune. The tune's pretty good for most people and most heights. If you need a custom tune, Drew's awesome. I'm sure Bobby, you're probably a couple months away from being pretty damn proficient on that thing.
We're getting there.
I think that the biggest thing is
curve.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Max is regardless of who's tuning it, as long as it's a Max and the mics are properly positioned, you can log in from anywhere in the world. Just like, Bobby could set his up. I could log in on this computer. Drew could log in, and it would be almost like we were there. There's still a component of listening and getting in the car afterwards, but, at least 90% of it, and it would, save you a 1,800-mile trip to Texas. And I'm sure Bobby would be more than happy to put the Max in there and work out the finances with you there. So
I would say that I wouldn't tune anything unless I had a trusted set of ears on it. You know what I mean? Like the guys that are like, yeah, I'll remote tune your car. Be like, that's not a race car, man. Like you got to listen to that shit.
It's
you can make it probably be very, very good. But without a good set of ears on it at the other end, I don't see that being awesome. I see it being like, that's pretty good. But
once you do enough Max tunes, like dedicated, like single seat tunes, you can kind of look at your end result for phase and summation and RTA, and you can be like, okay, I know how that sounds. That's going to sound good. You can.
Yeah.
I'm confident Jeffrey could tune my truck or his car without ever getting in it, like tune it and not get in it, and it would absolutely kick ass in competition. They dominate.
The thing that when I'm tuning at Mobile Toys, at the end of the tune, I take the mics out and I listen to it. Sometimes, like today, the K2Ms, I was like, hey, this followed my curve exactly. The tweeters were a dB and a half shy. I was like, hey, it just needs a little bit more. It's not quite there. And then, sometimes the image is an inch to the left or whatever it is. Those things you can't see using the mic. So yes, you can get it looking perfect on the screen, but having the set test tracks that like, hey, I listened to this one, this one, this one, this one, and I know what I'm looking for in all of those. And having those already in your head and having previous experience and training on it is important to your end result. You can get 90% there by any one of the people on the screen tuning. As soon as Bobby's got a little bit more time with Max and either Drew or I, if we log in on Max, you will get 90% there. But there is nothing like getting in and listening to it with experience behind what you're doing.
Yeah. And what's crazy is like that 90% that you can get to with Max, like 90% with Max is 130% of a lot of people's current tuning abilities
of any mic system. I mean, the first tune we did with the Max was a tune that had been done. Yeah, no. I mean,
And any of this
the
stuff just is gone. Just use
the
Max.
DMRTA mic system that we've used for fucking 3 dozen fucking tunes, the truck sounded great, but it was like, all right, we got to play with the Max. We want to put the Max in there. This is what, we're going to do it and make a new tune. And, and they were, figuring shit out, and they had to load different software, and they were bringing in different tracks, and, Colt's learning a little more about the computer. And the first fucking time going through the process of tuning with the Max, and it was already distinctly better. Not like, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is better. No, this is fucking better. And it's just way more advanced technology than what anybody else is making for a tuning system. It's way the fuck beyond. And I mean, it's a hell of a jump, and it's awesome. It's really cool.
It is. I mean, and like you said, and like Jeffrey said, you get 90% of the way there just by tuning it, or like just not even getting in it. But then it is that last 10% or that last little bit where you get in. That's where, I mean, that's the part that I'm still working on the most for sure. It's just dialing in my ears and what am I listening for.
It takes a ton of time.
That's part of the process that I need more experience with. Is I need to hear more vehicles that are like sound quality competition vehicles, because I mean, I can make some vehicles sound really, really good, really, really loud, and you turn down medium volume level, it sounds really good, but it doesn't sound like a fucking sound quality competition vehicle. And I would say that if I showed people an SQ build, like I'd like to do something in my Sprinter van. We're about to do a whole shitload of the Sundown deadening material throughout my whole Sprinter van.
That's
and maybe a good idea is to put all that other fucking what is that, the goddamn Apocella's
the barrier
in it. Yeah, the barrier material might be really nice in there as well.
Whenever you go to do that, shoot Nick a message and tell him like what the goal is, and he may have a better suggestion than barrier. He may be like, oh, do this instead, or do this and barrier.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Jeffrey does not work for JL.
Sundown on first, and then I'd like to build something in the Sprinter, and I have several ideas. Like there's that overhead section. I was like, man, if I had one Alpha 8 sealed right fucking here, that might be outstanding.
Yeah.
And then another idea is I thought about mid-bass drivers down in the door, in a box on the door, but we were a little worried about that. I think we talked about it with somebody, not like on the show. Who the fuck were we talking to?
Casey, you can ask your question. I mean,
yeah, shoot, Casey.
Someone asked a question earlier that I meant to bring up. Sorry, you can go.
The big thing that I would say, Bobby, is and anyone listening, go listen to some of these SQ vehicles. It's not going to change what you do. It's not going to change what you listen to and what you prefer and what you build at the shop, but it'll give you perspective.
You might hear something and go, oh, I want to be more like that. If I could if I experience something that I've never experienced before, I might find that I really like something a lot, when you're like, the 12s in the back, they handle everything from 22 hertz and down. I'm like, what? Like, that sounds super fucking fun. Show me that.
It is.
Dude,
his car
I want to know.
Is a blast. So, you've always said that all of your experience with SQ vehicles is they're fairly quiet.
Well,
Jeffrey's is the opposite. It absolutely
that's what I really need. So it was kind of, I've told this story several times, and crazy enough, I had the same vehicle a few years later at Surf City, and I got a really amazing demo. I wish I could remember his name. I'm working on getting better with people's names, but this gentleman has this silver Mercedes, and he's got all kinds of IB stuff.
We'll
he's got like IB 10s in the kicks, and he has 3 IB 12s in the trunk, and he's got these giant A-pillars, these big ass Dyne Audio tweeters, and like 4-inch mids and like 4-inch.
Sounds a lot like Brad's system.
And it sounded amazing. And he's showing me this thing, and it sounds fucking beautiful, and it's like pretty loud. And he turns it down. I'm like, hey man, this thing sounds amazing. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I heard this before at a seminar, and you had all hybrid. And he was like, oh yeah, I was there. And I'm like, man, it was not very loud then, and I was pretty disappointed. And he's like, well, it's a lot louder now. I'm like, yeah, it sounds great. I was like, is there any way you can make it a little louder? Or is that? And he's like, oh no, it'll go way more. And I'm all, can you give me some of that? And he's like, yeah. And he like gets in and beep bobbles around on his like dash screen. It might have been iPad, but I'm not 100% sure. Beep bobbles around, rails that thing, and it's like pretty loud. Not quite loud enough for me to be like, fuck yeah, but it was like, oh man, this is fucking outstanding. And it sounded just as beautiful. I'm like, why the fuck? I mean, he didn't lose anything going that loud. I'm like, I don't know why the fuck you wouldn't take this loud always, and it was beautiful and I loved it. And then there's like a guy knocking on the window and he's like, I'm like, oh my God, I got you in trouble. And they're like, they're judging over there. It was like 5 cars over, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry if you're judging.
But this was fun.
Yeah, I'm like 5 fucking cars over, and you're judging and an audio system. Then that shit should lose.
Needs to be turned up.
It's not fucking loud enough. If this car's 5
you
cars
would
over,
absolutely love Jeffrey's car, because on his like SPL preset, the subs are 140 dB, and it just rips.
And it plays pencil flat too.
So much power. That's awesome. Very energetic. I remember the first time
I've heard a lot about the car, and I've heard it fucking jams, and that it's awesome, and that's like I probably have heard 8 SQ cars, and one of them was twice, and one time I was like, that was not like there was nothing about it that I enjoyed. I was like, this is not as fucking loud as most stock audio systems, and it doesn't sound so much fucking better that I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. I was like,
you're gonna get to hear
then the second time I heard it, I was like, this is fucking outstanding. It was the best sounding thing I had ever heard that time. So it was like, I'm so glad it was him again. I was like,
Slam this year, huh?
Yeah. And then
you'll get to hear my truck again as it is, or it would probably be better by then, hopefully. But it's
you can swing out to Aguiland.
But have you guys done anything in a Sprinter van? You got some direction for me, Jeff, before we jump off?
No direction on Sprinter vans, unfortunately.
I tell you who might have some direction though. Even though I'm not sure how Jeffrey feels about him, the PS Sound guy in Europe, he does a bunch of Sprinter vans, like high end SQ stuff.
Very cool. I should check that out.
Yeah, PS Sound on YouTube, or I guess Facebook. But anyway, Casey, I would check your amps,
briefly touching on this guy. Put a step down module on the tweak. There's no reason to run it at 16 volts. Just get it to 12, 14.
Mine's at 16. I haven't had an issue yet, but
don't breathe too hard on it, Drew. But if you literally put a step down module or its own electrical system with a tiny motorcycle battery at 12 volts or 14 volts,
it'll
run perfect.
Casey knows all about like step down stuff for LEDs and stuff. He could get like a 12 volt DC conditioner that just outputs 14.4 constantly.
Yeah, that's all he would need. The car will probably not be in California, so you'll have to come to Texas.
Come to Aggieland.
So
April 1st.
Come to Aggieland and you come to finals. I do my best to not travel with the car. Keep my traveling to personal enjoyment. If I have to travel outside of state to get points, then I've done something wrong at the shows I attended. So that's my opinion.
That makes sense. I have a step down module. I can totally use subs. Keep playing. If I find it weird that only part of the channels would have issues. I feel like the whole thing would just turn off if the tweak was having an issue.
The whole thing would most likely turn off if I had to take a guess.
Yeah.
But
Casey, come by the shop, man. You're shaking the fuck out of something somewhere or something.
I believe he's shaking the fuck out of something because he has 2 DD-Z4 21s in a 4th order on a ton of power.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty nasty now.
He messaged me and said
pretty good. And
did he message you about his wiring mess up he did?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did. I was like, there's definitely something wrong. I was like, I'm like, you're like not very loud considering what this is. There's got to be a fucking problem somewhere, and yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I had no idea about it until he fixed it. I was like, oh, so you didn't want to tell me that it was sucking? Got it.
I mean, we knew it wasn't the box.
Nah, I mean, it could be the box, bro. It could be the box.
It wasn't likely. I mean,
well, you can always tell, like, if it has that sound, even at low volume, you know what I'm talking about. When a build has that sound, even low power, you're like, it's got that sound.
I mean, it had
to
that.
It.
Like, there was some, but it was some, but like, you'd start bringing it and it'd be like, oh, what's going on? I'm like, oh, they're stinky already? There's something fucked up. Like, there's something fucked up, man.
I mean, they're stiff, but they're not that stiff.
But, yeah, exactly. So, and it was, it was one of those things.
Later, Robert.
Yeah, Robert, we just built a little box for Robert, one of our 888 Shorty 1.5 boxes, and we made him a big ass top of the box Gately placard. I was gonna make it out of he's probably gone, but but I was gonna make it out of wood, and Anthony had this really nice piece of acrylic, and he was like, "This is pretty much scrap. I could gobble this thing up and make that thing out of acrylic." So we made it out of acrylic for him. And
Jerry, I think he had the subs wired in series instead of parallel or something.
Like one coil wired to itself.
Oh, so it was dead short.
Yeah,
dead
and
short.
then the other coil wired to the amp.
Yeah, so
it was,
that
would be a thing.
And like he was like, "Yeah, I had it wired like this," and yeah, it was
Right.
interesting.
You'll have that too, and it's such a small thing that total
and he
accident.
did one, and he had mind fucked himself when he was doing it, and couldn't like quite figure out what. And then he was like, "Oh no, I got it. Okay, cool." And then he bumped the speaker, and it moved okay. And
Jerry, bad part is like this is something where, dude, it could happen to anybody.
It could happen to anybody. I mean, the way the wires come off of the speaker, and they kind of fucking braid together and shit. And it's like, and he was like, "Yeah, I did this over here, and then I just duplicated it on the opposite side because I had thought I did it right." So
and then you just hear the click, 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 click. Oh,
well, he was like driving around for like a week thinking, "Man, these subs are hella fucking stiff. I can't get shit for output, but it's breaking them in. I'm getting stinky a little bit." And like, and he came by the shop and we were listening, and I was like, "There's got to be something wrong." And he was like, "Okay, I've been telling myself that, but I wasn't sure." And then I'm like, "I don't know. Double check all your wiring and do all the shit and check your signal and see if it's some weird signal thing." Or yeah, it was. I mean, thankfully, he didn't damage anything.
Right. He could have easily cooked us up. Luckily, they are big 4-inch gangster sub, so they took the abuse.
Yeah, and they're right there, and so they start stinking, and your sniffer's right on them right away, and yeah. Man, you can almost squeeze in through that port, but
you got to get a skinny,
like your head all wedged in the fucking port. You're like, ow, ow.
And that's the reason Jeffrey doesn't take apart his car very often. That's a bunch of screws.
Isn't it more than 97 screws? I think it is.
But Jeffrey's
and that back panel weighs like 110 pounds or some wild shit. It's 1.5 inch acrylic that is, like 40 by 48, and it is like it's a fucking slab of beef. So yeah, now I'm pretty sure it's more than like it's got to be 100 and something screws.
Let me go see if I can find a photo real quick before we hop off here. We keep saying that before we get off here.
No, Bobby. No, I'll definitely try and make it out to the West Coast and go to the barbecue one day. And you need to stop by Aggieland one year. So
yeah, I mean it'll be a little tough for us to arrange something for this year, but maybe finals or something else. But maybe also, and another thing is I was talking to Ray Pimley and I was talking to Travis from Iasca about because I can't host fucking SPL shows at my shop. I can't have fucking shows. And I know what I can have at my shop. I can have fucking SQ shows at my shop. I'll host that shit. I'm like, I'll drag them motherfuckers out there to me, and I'll be like, cool, let me hear that shit. and
entry fee, let me hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Let me hear that shit. So I can host an Iasca SQ event at the shop, and I think that will be really fun. So that's something is a way to get into it a little bit more. And, and another way to get maybe some of the SQ guys to experience stuff like this is we can have them, listen to fucking Casey's loud ass car and the Slam Halen and shit like that. So,
just,
you got to get everyone needs to know a little bit about everything. If you stick your nose up to something, like, oh, I do SQ, or oh, I do SPL. SQ cars are boring. Like, no, you need to just take a step back and appreciate what this is.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And so part of my description for this video was how Jeffrey was an SPL and then got an SQ, but he still has a big influence on SPL. He just doesn't know it, or he might know it. Like his influence on me to get as deep as I have into tuning and SQ. And there's a bunch of SPL demo guys now running DSPs or getting DSPs and actually trying to make their stuff sound good for the first time. And I mean, that's all because of old Jeffrey.
And if you're ever giving me a demo and it's over a 158, just tell me. Like about a 58, it starts to hurt too bad for me. I'm a wimp. But I actually have some hearing damage on my right ear. So that's why. But if it's over 58, just let me know, plug the ear, and we're good to go. So
you're about perfect in the Raiden because it probably only does like a 57 or a 58.
But look, it
sounds pretty fucking good. They're nasty, man. It's a lot. And they glow partying. And shit. There's mirrors and shit in that box.
Send us pictures with the lights on. Come on, what you doing, bro?
If it's a 50 to about a 57, 58, I'm partying. We're good. You start getting in the 60s, and then it's just like insane. Oh yeah, Sydney. That's my wife. If you didn't know, Sydney. She's only tapped once, and it was on a vehicle that was a full steel, everything bolted indoor, like that kind of thing. There's a video of me inside it. It's doing like a 61 in the doorway. It's probably doing a 65 plus in the corner, and she's over in the corner. She tapped on that, but you can give her all the loud demos you want. She won't tap. So
okay.
Whose vehicle was it?
It was Hutchinson's.
I was thinking that when it was all steel, and I got a rule, man. Yeah. The vehicles, if it doesn't have a fucking seat, then I'm not sitting in it. It's the rule. I will stand at the door, and I won't get bolted up in an extreme vehicle. I won't fucking do it. Like, I can't. No fucking way. I don't want to damage anything. I will tell you that the cube at Slam 2019 shook a motherfucking kidney stone free in me. Now, it might have been a good thing, right? Because I pissed that little rock out a couple days later, but that thing broke free for sure in the cube during a 53 hertz fucking burp demo nightmare. But and I didn't tap, but I like involuntary tapped. Apparently, I did some kind of herky jerky motion, scared the fuck out of everybody, and they were asking if I was okay, and I was like, "What'd I do?" And they were like, "You moved around real funny." So
you're like, "No, I didn't." Did I?
No, I didn't.
I was like, "Really?" And I think I'm okay, but I kind of felt my guts a little bit. Like, yeah, you kind of grabbed your guts. I'm like, I didn't even remember. Like my body went or something, and then I was a little uncomfortable for a couple days, and then that little rock went tink in the toilet, and I was like, that motherfucker moved in that damn cube for sure. So. And that might have been a good thing, right? You might be breaking them free and getting them out. So there's that.
It's crazy that it's louder now than it was in this video, too.
This is Sydney getting a demo. And when he does this, he does the 3 clicks. I'm inside, and I'm like, man, someone's getting the F down. And then I was like, oh, Drew just gave him the business. And I didn't realize it was my wife in the car. So it was pretty cool. Funny.
Those extra clicks are that's where it's at, bro.
Man, the extra clicks are the best.
Come on.
My customer that owns the Raiden, Jim, and he's like, so where is it at now? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, how loud are you turning it up? I'm all 32. And he's like, okay. So when do you think I can turn it up louder? I'm all, you cannot turn it up any louder. He's like, oh, okay. So
He's like,
those
"That's weak
extra
sauce,
clicks,
bro."
I'm all, they're not, those are break it. Those are the break the sound system clicks. You can't.
See,
Extra
that's one
clicks.
thing I found about the Sony single DIN, the high power one. I'm sure with other Sonys you can do. You can set the max volume on the radio to wherever you want.
Oh, I
Yeah,
need that.
you can do a volume limiter on the Sony high power.
Yep. So like you can go in and be like, say it goes to 52 out of 52. You can set it to 45.
A really good thing for a lot of my customers.
You can set it to volume 45. That's your limit. You could turn it all day. It's not going to go past 45 out of 52.
It's a $220 single DIN. I don't know how it holds up in big bass, but you should look into it, Bobby, because you can literally go in there. You set the volume limiter. You could set it to 10. I mean, go ahead and turn it. Go ahead.
There's guys that like that. They're like, I tune this guy's audios.
That's what Duncan needs.
He drove 3 hours for us to tune his DSP. And when it was done, he was like, hey, man, it's not as loud. And I'm like, it's way louder than it was before. And he's like, no, look, when I'm at like, I used to only turn it to like 14 and I'm already at like 20. And I like spun the knob and I'm like 35, buddy, all the way over here.
He's like, whoa!
And he's like, oh, I'll see. Well, I don't want to have to turn it up that loud. I'm all, oh man.
Buddy.
I'm like, you want me to just turn up all your gains? Like, this is how we tune audio systems, man. And I'm like describing the whole thing. I'm like breaking the whole thing down and what we're doing and why. And I'm like, this dude drove 2.5 hours to have us tune his DSP because it didn't sound right. And he had ear tuned it himself and it sounded pretty good. But I didn't realize when he was giving me a demo that he had only turned his volume up to 14 and he liked it there. And so I explain and I'm going through it all and this is why. And he's like, I'm just going to have to get used to that, huh? And I'm like, you don't have to.
No, you have
but
to.
But you should. Like, you really should.
Yeah, you have to. But Steven needs a volume limiter because he'll be on that van, bro. If it's got more clicks, he's going to find them clicks.
Yeah.
He's going to find them.
Jim's like that, too. Jim will damage some subs.
Like, he don't give a shit. Are the people listening to it having a good time? He doesn't want
to break it, but he wants it to do everything it possibly can. And I'm like, it kind of hurts a little bit, Jim. Like, like, dude, it's really loud. Yeah.
I have a dude with some Orion stuff who is mad at me because I told him that Orion subs cannot do what W7s do. And he thought I meant output when I meant sound worth a fuck. So he's been sending me videos of his shit playing. He's like, that's only on volume 8. I'm like, well, turn it up. Turn it up, bud. I got 2 10s that'll outbeat that.
I get the guys that are like, hey, what box do I use for this avatar? And I'm like, do they have any recommended specifications? And they're like, no. Like, did you contact the manufacturer? Yeah. What did they say?
No.
They don't have any recommended specifications. I'm like, oh. I would get rid of that woofer.
I mean, but that part is like that's like most manufacturers.
Absolutely zero engineering, development, testing, or experimentation with the product in any way, shape, or form, other than maybe picking the color. I don't know what to say about that.
One thing I wish people would get off of is wanting to stick with the manufacturer recommended spec for everything. And I'm like, man, it really don't work. Like, yeah, but that's the spec. Oh, spec for what? For the subs to play what? They're like, I'm like, to play what? Because you want to play 15 hertz, bud.
Yeah, you're not gonna do that. Well, there's also the what's even worse than that is the guys that are like, yeah, so I was reading on Facebook and everybody said that the X is like a big box. And like they like quite a big box, like an X12, 2.5 cubic feet after sub and port displacement.
Loves it.
So I was thinking I should go with like 3 or 3.5. And I'm like, no.
You should do like 2.5. Or 2. Hell.
2.5's a big box.
2 dude. Because you don't know what you're doing.
They don't mean when people are like they like a big box, it doesn't mean they like bigger than what the fucking manufacturer said. That just is a big box for a 12-inch sub.
And like all these recommendations.
I don't know, man. I was reading this guy, and I'm like,
unless that guy's last name is Jones
on the phone,
stop.
clearly you were looking for an expert to help you, and you
I get
weren't
people
sure
all
about
the
the shit
time.
you found on the internet, but you were hoping I'd tell you that, and now you're still hoping that your idea was right, or your friend on the internet.
Dude, I get people all the time.
I'm not going.
Sundown specifically irritates me because I'm so deep in the Sundown like world, and I've been a part of it for so long, and I'm the trusted one on the website, and I'm deep in it. And so like they'll ask my advice on something Sundown. I tell them, they're like, "Oh, well, Sundown says." I'm like, no. I said their recommended spec is good for generic a starting point. That's all it is. It's a starting point.
And I created it.
Yeah, and
that's your application that you're asking me about.
So what I'll do is I'll tell them, be like, all right, go download the design on the website. They do it. I'm like, all right, whose logo's on it? They're like, yours. All right, then, bud.
Cool.
Yep. Or like they're like power handling. They're like, oh, my 3-inch coil sub can take 6,000 watts for an hour. No, it can't.
Not a chance.
No, it cannot. Oh, but Sundown. Shh. I'm like, I will call Jacob right now. But even you would probably tell him he's wrong. So he's still here. Yeah, the internet, fellas. I'm sure Brandy wants to go to bed. It's 11:30. I'm gonna go eat some food.
You're the first one tapping out now.
So I'll stay then.
We
here all night.
I'm gonna tap out next.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much, man. We'll have you on again. I love learning stuff from you and the guys.
He'll probably be on.
Appreciate all the help.
He'll be on probably the 29th of this month because I'll probably be in College Station.
Okay.
Maybe I'll find a single person flight and I'll shoot you out there
flying to Houston. It's I'm sure it's cheap for you. Flying to Houston, I can pick you up on my way through.
Yeah.
There's going to be a party
for me if I just make a flight happen.
Yeah,
if I could show up with a backpack and.
Yep, you're good. That's all you need.
Wear my thong backwards.
There's going to be a party at Aggieland. Chris is having a whole shindig. There's going to be. I don't think we have extra beds at this house. I think we're hosting 7 or 8 people at this house, but. But
we can
you'll be welcomed with open arms. Yeah, you get. Well, I'm sure Drew's the master of Airbnb. You get it figured out. So, but you'll be open arm welcomes. You got semi party here, and then you got a huge MTI sponsored party the next day, and sound quality vehicles. And
you should definitely fly into Houston. One of us will come get you from Houston because I got to pass right through Houston.
So
right on.
I think I'm picking that up, actually.
Yeah. See you guys.
I'm going to check into that.
It's been a pleasure.
Fellas.
Night, Jeff.
All right.
I will talk to Jeffrey in a minute, and I'll probably talk to Bobby. Probably tomorrow. I'll talk to Bobby.
Night, everybody.
All right.
Later, everybody.
See you.
Later.
And in